Day 2 of the Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial. Back on the stand is LTL Sr. Attorney Bradel says, "Hey, I kind of like those glasses. Are those one of those AI ones where you can record everyone?" We are then reminded of Massachusetts law enforcement's favorite derogatory term to call women.
Do you know Maureen Teresi, your neighbor?
Maureen Teresi.
You gave her your opinion of Kelsey, didn't you?
I don't remember.
You called her a whack job, didn't you?
She was a whack job.
Noonan says he fired in rapid succession at Kelsey, so it kind of sounded like this.
Bang, bang, right?
However, Bradel says Noonan told the police that he pulled the trigger once, gave commands to Kelsey, and then fired again. We then get into the tactical Kama Sutra, featuring positions such as the Weaver, the FBI crawl, the one-hander. We talk about how he was standing like 3 feet from Kelsey, yet couldn't hit her despite being a former member of the SWAT team. He then makes the wild accusation that he believed he was standing in the way of Kelsey going downstairs and killing Justin. Speaking of Justin, one more time for old time's sake. Bradel wraps up his cross by getting into the evolving statements of Officer Noonan. Originally, Noonan said that Kelsey was grabbing her chest, saying it hurts, and he was comforting her, saying, "You have a kid to live for now." But in this other investigation, he added the fact that she apparently grabbed his hand, looked up at him, and almost looked through him with a death stare. Next up is Core. This guy took possession of the firearm after the incident. He's on the stand for a total of about 10 minutes. Bradel notes that he didn't write a police report and he wasn't interviewed until a month after the incident, which we know from prior cases is standard Massachusetts protocol. Up next is Bonosero. This guy is bald, so we know he works for the Massachusetts State Police. If we've learned anything from the past few years, it's that the MSP is really bad at keeping a chain of custody. There were several areas where the witness didn't know how a certain piece of evidence got to him or where it went after him. Par for the course. Officer Houston rolls out of bed and onto the witness stand. He says Noonan told him that Kelsey pointed a gun at him at the scene. Bradel objects. During cross, Officer Houston said that Kelsey was saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." It seems everyone in Massachusetts has to say things 3 times in a row.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
It was abundantly clear he did not want to be there. We end the day with Michelle Mitchell, apparently was a friend of Kelsey's. You couldn't tell because she was asked 5 questions by Bradel, and she answered 4 of them with an attitude.
Okay, she said that she needed Justin.
Meeting or needing? You need to clarify that for me.
I think I said needed. She said she needed Justin.
Needed Justin, that is correct.
Okay, so just let's put that over here, that she was meeting Justin, right?
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
So was there swimming?
No, Mr. Bradel.
Was there drinking?
Also no.
The defense will be chaperoning the judge on a field trip to the scene tomorrow morning. It seems the Commonwealth may be resting, and we'll get to the defense case tomorrow. You know our motto here, but like, but comment, but subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MazzaMedia. It is Tuesday night, March 24th, 2026. If you live in the state of Massachusetts, it was cold out there this morning. It was snow on the ground, but we're back. We got a great show tonight. We got guests that are about to pour in the next few minutes. I'll stand by for them to arrive. But we got Mark Betterow joining us tonight. We have the Glare joining us. We got attorney Lori Mullen from Mullen Law joining us. We got Lauren from Common Sense Investigator, and we got Britt Happens joining us throughout tonight's show. So here we are, almost 7 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, already live on the air. And look, I mean, the way it looks right now is this thing could be wrapping up on Thursday. There's no question about that right now. I think this is going to go another, at least another day. It looks like the Commonwealth still has to at least, examine a few other witnesses. And then there's going to be a field trip, like Fervent's video just said. There's going to be a field trip. Oh, come on, MJ. Michelle was extremely nice and outgoing, and Houston had nothing but energy on the stand. They were exceptional. Let's come on. She was very nice, MJ. Or not. Or not. But yes, we are rocking and rolling into day 3 tomorrow, and I catch up when I can. I have very limited time. Lunch. I got after 5 o'clock to catch up, and it's like, okay, let me cram in as much as I can to get ready. But I expect to be live again tomorrow night. It's looking like so at least 3 nights this week. I usually don't do these shows because they're very, to do these shows this week takes a lot of sacrifice. I have other things I have to do, but I'm kind of pushing things off because this is kind of really the whole enchilada right now. This is it. I mean, this is the trial. This is the moment. Since September, we've all been waiting for Kelsey to walk out of here, out of court, an innocent woman later this week. Let's fix that just a little bit. And, that's what we're looking forward to right now. Let's see if that sits. Okay, perfect. But yeah, honestly, I mean, I can see why, I would not want her as a friend either, considering the amount of sparkling personality she displayed. She displayed more of a sparkling personality than my sparkling seltzer water, which is tonight's drink of choice, pink apple and lemon by Polar Seltzer. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, back to Polar. And on standby, just in case, I got Polar cranberry lime with their new cans. So that's what we got going on. Yeah, we got a panel, but they haven't arrived yet. They'll be getting here. I told them 7, so we'll see how everybody makes it out and gets here. So we shall see. Let's see if they're messaging me saying, hey, Mazza, you never sent us the link to join the show. Let's take a look, because I know I did. Let's see. And everyone looks like they're good so far. So we'll stand by. I'll make conversation with the chat while we wait. But yeah, it was interesting to say the least. From what I got to see today, we're going to talk about Noonan quite a bit. Well, Noonan not only almost put you to sleep, I think he was almost asleep himself. I mean, this guy had less energy than an old folks home after Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy ends. Once it's like those 2 shows are over, all the elderly people probably just fall asleep in their chairs and on their couches and in their beds, and that's it. It's lights out, right about now. But that's pretty much how that goes. But yes, I think it's going to go to Thursday. That's my prediction right now. I think it's going to Thursday because of a few reasons. It's going to be basically, again, the Commonwealth needs to finish up. Then there's the field trip to Phillips Road. And then we got what we got coming up is then Bradle's got to do his direct examinations as well with his witnesses. We'll see how that goes. Making your way onto the show right now. Give her just a few seconds to settle. She'll just wave when she's ready. And there she is. She's ready to go. Attorney Lori Mullen.
Hey, Mazza.
How are you?
Fantastic. Doing well.
Yeah.
How about you?
Very good today. I'm doing awesome. Ready to go. And, prepared for another day of, trial tomorrow. And, it's going, from what I've seen, it's going completely in Kelsey's favor. And I just have not seen anything in any way, shape, or form other than maybe some acting jobs, to quote Gubitosi. Not that he said that, but he uses quotations, as you know, to suggest that, that Kelsey's in any way, in any dire straits, quite honestly. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I mean,
you always got to keep in mind that the Commonwealth has the burden, and I haven't seen anything that put them over the top with that. I haven't seen anything.
No, it's been, these witnesses are not very good. There hasn't been one witness that's got up there and been spectacular. I mean, they haven't even been good.
Some of them have been good for Kelsey.
Yeah, good for Kelsey. Yeah, like Daly, for example, is fantastic.
We're in the prosecution's case. We haven't even started on the defense case. And really, to me, a lot of the witnesses have been better for Kelsey than they have been for the state's case. So
yeah, Unbelievable. What did you think of the Noonan glasses, the alleged AI glasses this morning?
What's up with that? I mean, I'm not that much of a techie. So like to me, they just look like glasses, but I did find it interesting for Tim to point that out. And he did. And I think the one thing it did work to do was get Noonan all flustered, because he was flustered after Tim said that to him. And that set the tone for the rest of the cross exam.
Right. Oh my goodness. Mark, what did you think of these alleged AI Google glasses or whatever they were today? Star Trek glasses?
It has to be one of two things. One, just kind of get them all razzed up, little shaken, unexpected, with silliness or whatever. And the only other thing I could think of is, I don't know if Tim engaged in the kind of shenanigans many, many years ago we used to engage in as young trial lawyers, and say every trial you would try to work in one word that makes no sense somehow, some way. And, maybe, I don't know, AI glasses was it. No, that's not it. Clearly, all kidding aside, I think that's just to throw him off his pace. I don't know what any real purpose there could be other than just kind of, snap your fingers, get them paying attention. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. I did get my cousin Vinny vibes initially with the, sir, you're wearing glasses. And I was like, oh no, is he going to like come back here with like, I'm Kelsey and I'm standing back here. Can you see me?
Over here, dear. Over here, dear.
Two fingers of three.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, the glasses are the least of the prosecution's problems, I think, for
right.
What they're dealing with.
Gubitosi just does not, I'll say this. I think Gubitosi is better than Lally. I'll give him that, but I don't think I just don't think he has anything to work with. I think this is just such a vague, from a prosecution standpoint, this just seems like an entirely vague set of witnesses to work with. There's not anything, there's no substance to it.
It's ground beef. Sometimes get filet mignon, other times you have to make the patties. And this is a patty case. It's, he's got to work with what he's got, which is not much. And he's left with, filling in the margins with these really irrelevant witnesses who offer nothing. It's not an impressive trial. I mean, and you're still in their case in chief, obviously. So, this is their show. They're quarterbacking the production. They're the ones who should be, if it's going well for the prosecution in any trial, they ought to be way ahead, at least in the perception of what's coming in, without knowing what's coming next from the defense. But you do know what's coming next from the defense. And at this point, the only chance they're going to have to get a conviction, which I don't think will happen unless something strange were to occur, but he's going to have to absolutely destroy her and somehow establish that Noonan is entirely credible, beyond all doubt, and that nothing that Kelsey says is even worth being plausible to the point where you could credit any of it, and kind of create a situation where a judge says there's only one way to go here. I mean, a judge can mostly believe Noonan, but say, I don't know, there's a few issues and I can't resolve them. She's still legally not guilty in that situation. And so this is not a litmus test on, who do you believe? And therefore, that's what you see on Twitter, people fighting and screaming about what happened. That's not really the issue. And that sounds terrible, but, the prosecution has to prove what happened. The defense is not required to do that at all. They just have to establish that there could be a different view here and it's reasonable. So there are different things. They just have to create doubt. And it feels like there's a lot of doubt here already. But they will have their shot. The defendant's going to testify apparently. So in their mind, they have a puncher's chance, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's, I just think this guy, he's merciless in a sense. He's very merciless in my opinion. And this was, the impression I got, where it's like, well, she tried to shoot me, but he doesn't present any remorse. Like he's not presenting it such as it's an unfortunate circumstance that happened. I had to save my life because she was trying to attack me, and I wish it hadn't have happened. Like, he doesn't express it like in that way. Like, if he was someone that was truly innocent in a sense that whatever happened, if it happened the way it happened, there's no like remorse about it, where it's like, it's unfortunate this happened, but unfortunately, as an officer, you have to do what you have to do sometimes. I love working with her, and it was an unfortunate. He's not like that at all. He's basically like, well, I had to defend myself. You understand that, right? It was more like defensive.
You're right, and the way he described it, it's not consistent with the text messages that he wrote, which appeared very heartfelt when they experienced this traumatic incident together with, the murder, suicide, and the baby and all of that stuff. And then, to not remember that. And then you juxtapose that against the part, which was a great way to end a cross, by the way. You always want to end, if you can, with a zinger or something powerful, that he somehow forgot and left out that she basically gave her, confessional, if you will, before she assumed she might die or something, and took his hand and basically apologized for trying to kill you. And that's what he told the state police or whoever it was early in the proceedings, when in essence, any police officer knows, I'm going to get scrutinized here, and I need this to be a clean shoot so they get off my back. And somehow that all just disappeared. It's only been 9 months, by the way, which is a very fast time to try a case like this. Yeah. We're not talking years of forgetting. And to say that I didn't even remember that, wow, that's just hard for me to believe. And again, it doesn't mean that he wanted to kill her. It just means that once the facts develop that they did, the defense argument will be he went into self-preservation mode. He doesn't want to get jammed up. I knew she was seriously injured, so I'm just going to go with, she came at me and it is what it is. And whether a judge believes that or not, there's just too many unanswered questions in his story. There are too many disturbing statements made by both him and her. Some of his other conduct is hard to explain. The description of the timeline of giving commands and shots fired is tough to explain. There's just all kinds of things that, to me, already are strongly indicative of what's likely to be reasonable doubt.
This is a nice question here, Mark. Thank you so much for that. This is a question for you, Mark. I'm going to direct. If the judge rules Kelsey not guilty, does that implicate Noonan criminally?
Not at all. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Not at all.
Yeah.
You could conclude, if you're the fact finder, and by the way, this is why you do a bench trial, because a judge can handle this high level legal analysis, understanding burdens of proof, where juries, the risk is they get carried away on, like you said, a litmus test of who do I believe. You could totally believe, if you're the fact finding judge, that Noonan is probably telling the truth. He appears credible. I believe what he's telling me, but there's just a few wrinkles that I can't square away. The things that she said, trying to get him to leave the room so she's alone with the guns, not understanding some of the other things that he said. Presumably Kelsey will testify emotionally that I was despondent. I wanted to harm myself. I don't expect her to get destroyed on cross. I don't know how it'll go, but I don't expect any Perry Mason, you're right, I tried to kill him stuff. And so if you're the judge, when you have all this going back and forth, even if he says, I don't think Noonan is a bad guy, but can I possibly believe this beyond a reasonable doubt? In order to do that, he's going to have to entirely reject what Kelsey says and entirely accept, at least on the incident, what Noonan says. But if he acquits her, people should not interpret that to mean that he thinks Noonan committed a crime or that he perjured himself or that he lied. That's too much. That's too far. And by the way, nothing's going to happen to Noonan. No one's going to investigate him. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, so it's going to be another McAlbert situation where Karen Reed gets acquitted, but then anybody that might be a potential suspect just basically gets to go on with their life pending maybe the feds investigating, and that's it.
I mean, I guess, the interesting point was this could be a different analysis in terms of how you feel about Noonan if he basically said, look, I don't know what was in her mind, but, I knew she was despondent. I knew we were going to deal with, a high level emotional situation. I knew that she had been sectioned or whatever, assuming that's even, frankly, should have been admissible or not, putting that aside. If he had basically said, look, factoring all that in, she did have a gun. And to me, I believe when she started swinging the gun, I saw that gun being pointed to me, and I did what I'm trained to do. And people could debate whether that would be a proper shooting or not. But that story would be probably to a fact finder a lot more believable, yet perhaps more favorable to the defense, if you're the prosecution in this, than this story where out of nowhere, in the span of 5 minutes, she went from hold my baby. You and I have shared traumatic incidents, which he tried to conceal or forget. All of that to just, I'm going to murder you. And I tried to, and then do what? Just throw the gun away and say, can I have my baby back?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. When you're factoring in burdens of proof, it doesn't square.
Well, he came up with a theory today that we'd never heard before, which is she was trying to kill me so she could get downstairs to kill Justin, which doesn't really make sense because he also testified that he had no idea Justin was in the house.
Right.
So it sounded at first blush, I mean, yeah, it's inconsistent and lunacy. I think what happened is something a little different. He definitely said that. I get it. And it doesn't square with, I didn't know that he was in the house. I think it indicates another problem with the case, that all of the prosecution witnesses are influenced by what the other ones have said. They've all talked about this. They're aware of secondhand. This is why hearsay is inadmissible in court. I believe when he said, I think he was going, or she was going to go down there to kill Justin, it's because of the birds in his ear for the last 9 months about what happened, who was there, things that he didn't know. And that what he was trying to say was that in real time, I didn't know that he was there, Justin. I now know from other sources that he was there. And then he throws in this gratuitous opinion, which is not proper, of course, about what she was trying to do. But it certainly comes out where, you see that the witness, he just appears too invested in the prosecution as opposed to just an earnest, honest Joe Friday, just the facts. I mean, all of these police witnesses seem too interested, not necessarily in the outcome, but they're really on the team, and you can feel it, in my view.
Just quick audio. Sorry, just real quick. Just an audio check. So everyone's set. Just make sure everyone's set up properly. It was like an echo in and out for a minute or two there. So I just wanted to make sure we're all good. If not, we can continue on with Lauren.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, there are people who think that Noonan was in on this and somehow didn't act right. I'm not saying I'm one of them. I think he messed up. I think he overreacted. There are people who think he was. And for him to say that, I don't know why he would say that. He loses credibility when he says something like that. And it also is going to push the narrative for those who do think he was involved in this little kind of conspiracy plan, that we know there was a plan, but people do believe that there was some sort of conspiracy. So for him to get on the stand and say that, I think it was so unwise and didn't help.
I will say this. I mean, and I say this respectfully to whoever believes that. If you believe that Noonan showed up as part of some evil conspiracy, which was going to lead him to find a way to shoot and possibly kill her, seriously, take off your tinfoil hat. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
No, I don't believe that's what happened. I do think he had things in his mind that may have, forced his actions. You know what I mean? That may have contributed to why he acted in a certain way. Not that he went there with any intention, but one of the things that came out today that was in the state police report, he told them, not we're there to serve a restraining order, but we were there to section her.
Yes.
And no, they weren't there to section her. So why would he say that and think that? So it may go to his state of mind.
One of the reasons, again, if you believe that he's trying to protect himself after the fact because he realizes, oh God, I just shot a colleague and I don't want to be scrutinized and I want this to be cleared as a good shoot. One way that you would try to convince internal affairs or whatever, whoever else is investigating this, is that I was aware that she was unstable. This was going to be a dangerous situation. And of course, from his perspective, the more dangerous the situation, the more unstable she appears to be, the more mentally distraught she appears to be, the more likely they would be to conclude that she's a lunatic who just pulled out a piece and pointed it at my head and I had no choice.
Exactly.
Right.
And I feel like they are trying to make her out to be this in little ways. Like this is like the second or third time that someone has mentioned there was a bunch of clothes on the couch, like trying to make it like her house was not in order, her mental state therefore was not in order.
Right.
When really like I put my clothes on the couch when I'm folding them. Like, you know, just twisting things. We see this in every trial, but I think this was another kind of attempt to just dirty her up, that kind of thing, to make her seem that way.
It does, but I also get it intellectually what they would be trying to doing. The more crazy, unstable, and unhinged she appears, the more credible Noonan appears in just going in, being a regular police officer, and out of nowhere, this lunatic tries to kill me. So, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. I don't believe that, honestly. But the more they put out there that she appears to check off boxes of being unhinged and unstable, disturbed, distraught, upset, sad, whatever you want to call it, the more believable, I suppose, it is that, you know, she would pull out a gun on a former colleague or current colleague of hers and try to shoot him in the head.
Yep, absolutely.
It, you know, one of the things I was big on was just the drug, you know, the lack of the drug test. I feel like that, you know, when you're looking at things like reasonable doubt, my personal opinion, and even though it's my personal opinion, that may not necessarily translate the law. That's why we have lawyers on this show tonight, is that if they didn't drug test him after that incident, then there's really no way of telling what his true state of mind was, because if he's under the influence and he overreacts to something, even if it's not panic, even if it's just like, say he, I don't know, say he got high, you know, an hour earlier to keep himself calm while he's on duty, and then he just overreacts in a sense to whatever he thinks happening. And perhaps, I don't know, it's just, I just feel like that fact that they couldn't get a drug test on him, to me, you know, because it could be, you know, he could be using substances or whatever it is and mixing it with prescriptions, RXs or whatever. But if they don't have a drug test on him, they have no way of telling what kind of state of mind he was in during that moment. And if he's so much, it's, you know, if he's so much is overreacted because of that medicine combining, say, with marijuana or whatever else he might have been using, then this is, Kelsey Fitzsimmons can't go to jail because he made a decision, or he maybe thought he saw something he didn't, or covered himself. You know, it just doesn't, you know, it just doesn't pass the smell test to me.
Yeah, I mean, to me, again, it's kind of, you know, a pebble that you put on the scale where you're trying to tilt it to reasonable doubt, which does not take a lot. You know, the other side, you have to tilt it, but you just have to lean it slightly for reasonable doubt. And, you know, the argument is clear. We don't know whether he was, and I'm not suggesting he was, but from the defense point, we don't know. Maybe he was amped up, or maybe his judgment was skewed by something. Don't know. But when they don't test a police officer who is involved in a traumatic incident like that, where they're supposed to, and you don't know, that's something you hold against the party with the burden of proof. And when the defense is putting out all these unanswered questions, or speculating, if you want, you can do that when you don't have the burden of proof. The problem is the party with the burden of proof has to quash all the speculation that is at least grounded in reason. And this is just one example. And they have no answer for it other than he wasn't tested. Now, he can't tell you whether that was nefarious or not, I don't know the policy. And you know what? I'll accept that. Who cares?
Yeah.
The point is you weren't tested, so we don't know.
It's just absolutely outrageous. I have a question about the family court attorneys for Attorney Mullen, who's on our show. Lori, this was about what was the purpose of having the family court lawyers there? Could you answer that question if possible?
Well, they've been there. They've been there since the beginning of the trial. Julie Hess and her, I guess it's one of her associates that's there, and I think, to be honest, it's just another level of assistance for them. Like, while we've been in the court, I've noticed like Julie would be passing notes up to Courtney and whatnot about different things, and she might have another level of just facts and things like that she knows. And so just to kind of pull them in, the judge, and they are attorneys. So, the courtroom's really crowded. Like, technically, like, I could go and sit in like the attorney box if I wanted. I'm sitting with the spectators, but I mean, we do that all the time.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just that it's so crowded, and they were going to go sit at defense table. So the judge actually did make them file limited appearances in the case, just so that they could sit there. I mean, she can have as many attorneys as she wants to have there. I just think they're providing another level of assistance. They're also there to take notes and whatnot, so that they would have that information in the family court case. I did speak to Julie today briefly, and that seemed to me to be, she's just, doing her research. She has information that maybe she can pass on, that she remembers a little tidbit, a little thing here or there. And she's been, working with Courtney on that to help them get through the cross exams. So that's basically it.
Yeah. And what were your thoughts about court today? There was one of the Michelle, who was called to the stand, had a very tremendous personality, someone that you'd want to hang out with. I mean, if you have like a party, why would you not want to hang around with her great enthusiasm and comedic wit and charm?
I'm still, maybe Mark can explain to me, because did you hear that testimony at all, Mark, of this friend Michelle? And maybe you can tell me why she was there. Like, what was her point? What did she offer for the prosecution? Why would she be a prosecution witness? Go.
I got nothing.
You got nothing? Come on.
I see her testimony. I still don't understand what the purpose of her testifying was. To me, it's just, I mean, substantively, she's meaningless, but as part of just the psychology of all this and all this cast of characters, with friends like that, who the hell needs enemies? I mean, my God, how do you go from wedding party? And maybe that's the inference they're trying to say, because she did something terrible. But again, none of that's relevant. It doesn't matter. Her demeanor was terrible. She was combative on some level for no reason with Tim. But
Mr.
I don't.
Bradle. It's Mr. Bradle to you.
Yeah.
Nasty.
But I don't know. And it's funny because I actually spoke to Tim about 30 minutes ago. And I won't share the substance, other than one of my first questions is, what was the purpose of that?
I was so confused. I was so confused after she was done. I like, there was some random woman sitting next to me, and I'm like, did I miss something? Like, did I miss the point? Yeah.
It feels like they're just trying to use filler time to make this look longer. And it also feels like what I maybe suspected yesterday was right, that they took Noonan and just kind of put him in the middle, right. Almost not to hide him. I mean, you can't hide his testimony. It's the only testimony on their side that really counts. But to hide just the whole exchange and all the stuff that came out of it. But, if you believe you have a strong case, you don't need to fluff it up with these irrelevant witnesses that have nothing to add other than, she's, Kelsey's not a good person or whatever they're trying to say. I don't know what the prosecution's doing.
No, I mean, I think from a bench trial perspective, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I mean, you know, the judge isn't going to be listening to anything that she has to say. She had nothing to say about the event that occurred. And I could see maybe if it was a jury trial and it's like, oh, let's get her friend up there to say what a horrible, crazy lunatic she is. But for the judge, I was very, very confused by all of that. I didn't know what was going on, honestly.
One of the questions is going to be, I mean, you used to be friends with Kelsey? Yes, I used to be friends with Kelsey. There you have it, folks. There I mean, what's the point? What's the purpose? It's like if she got up there,
I hurt them. I mean, I
think so.
don't. It seemed like there was, you know, just such an animus there on her part that, like, I just can't. And you know, the list of witnesses, a joint list of witnesses that was produced prior to the trial. There's a lot of names on there, and that name didn't even jump out to me. And my understanding is the Commonwealth maybe has one more witness, and there's a whole lot of names on that list, a bunch of Mass State Police, other North Andover police officers, and apparently they're not going to get called. But instead we call, you know, Mean Michelle over there and have her come and testify for like zero reason. I'm baffled by it. I really am.
Yeah, and I don't know if they were trying to make, because they were trying to act like, oh, Kelsey needed Justin. Well, she said she needed him. Maybe she said she needed to talk to him because he was ghosting her and didn't show up at the park for 2 hours. Like, I mean, and you guys were over at the house partying, which is the hill she was trying to die on, that there was no alcohol served. Like, why are you, who cares? Plus,
it was an innocent like question on Bradel's part, because if you're in the courtroom, you know, I'm sure like when you're watching it on the live streams, sometimes even then the audio is not great. The audio inside the courtroom, and Mark can attest to this when he's in the message, you can't hear a lot of what's going on. Sometimes you can't hear the judge, sometimes you can't hear the witnesses. And the difference between the words meeting and needing, it was literally an innocent mistake on Bradel's. Like, it wasn't even a mistake. He wasn't sure. He was like repeating what she said. At least he thought he was. And she just took that and blew that up. Like, you know, how dare you say I said this? It's like, I wasn't sure exactly what she said. I'm like, oh, what was that?
None of it makes any sense. And once you even get past just her, you know, her poor demeanor, which is, again, not how it should be. It's not a good look for the prosecution. But when you still try to understand, what are you trying to do? I mean, how are you moving the ball forward to the case at hand? What's your point? And, you know, you sit there and you try to think about it, and you analyze the substance of her testimony, which I guess for the most part amounts to, you know, Kelsey was distraught and wanted to communicate, and I need to find Justin and all this. And then say, okay, let's just assume as a broad mosaic, that's in essence what they were establishing. How does that help them, as opposed to, if it helps anyone at all, which I'm not saying it does, if anything, it would tend to help the defense by showing, once again, she's distraught. These are the people she's turning to, and she wants help, or she's, you know, losing her mind, getting upset, whatever it is. And they're all shunning her, and now they're all treating her like this. And then, you know, what is she doing shortly after this? She's in her room, you know, alone with a gun, at least wanted to be, and then it's used to trying to kill the cop. I mean, if they're trying to die on the hill of, really, you know, for all we know, she might have killed the ex-boyfriend, that's gross speculation. There's no evidence to support it. It really doesn't belong in this trial under the rules of evidence and relevance in any event. But beyond that, I just don't know what the prosecution is doing, because even assuming you could get it in, how the hell does this help you? I just
no. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And it showed an inconsistency in Noonan's testimony, because he clearly stated, I had no idea, which I don't understand this, but I had no idea Justin was in the house. But like, isn't that the reason why one of the officers went down to keep the peace? Because Kelsey said, you know, keep him away from me. Yep. And that's why he was left in the room. And then today his testimony was like, I didn't know he was there. I had no idea he was there. And then in the same breath, it's like, well, she wanted to kill me to get over to Justin. But you just said you didn't even know he was there. Like, what? Like, so your mindset is, yep, she's raising that gun. She wants to kill me. And you know, he's going to step in and save the alien or whatever. But I don't know. Just to me, it definitely, the testimony today definitely helped the defense.
Yeah.
And Michelle
in terms
also
of pushing the needle on the reasonable doubt. That's all.
And Michelle also corroborated Kelsey's standpoint where they were communicating. He was going to meet her at a park. Justin got on the stand and denied that. And then Michelle said, yes, he told me that. He told me that, I think on the phone, she said. So it just, again, showed that Justin was lying. So I don't know what the point was, but they didn't help themselves.
I didn't get it. That was a poor decision, I think.
Yes.
I think they're probably sitting at home tonight regretting that one. I don't know. I mean, it happens sometimes. You're not really sure what people are going to say. And I think maybe that because I don't see where that helped anybody.
Oh, I'm not regret it or not. I mean, you got to give them some criticism here, and they need to own it, which is this is their show. Okay.
Yep, that's right.
The defense never wants to be there. I joke about this all the time. Mazza, you heard, I go where they send me. We don't ask to come. We get ordered to go.
Right.
Show up, and we have to react to their proaction. And they're the quarterback. They've had 9 months to map out a theory, try the case in the way they want, and it can't just be the day before game day. Let's just call an ex former friend to say not much of anything. I mean, if you're gonna do that, if you're really gonna do that, then you have to go the extra step and say, for the love of God, whatever you're gonna say, can you please maintain composure and the exact same, demeanor on cross that you do direct? That's critical. If you don't want to come off as a jaded, angry, biased, whatever, and this witness who had nothing to offer fell right to that. And again, she's a bridesmaid, for Christ's sakes. It's weird.
Always a bridesmaid and never a bride. Bitter bitch. I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
But,
that kind of personality.
When you're a prosecutor, there has to be a reason. One of the first things that presumably any lawyer does before they try the case is you look at the elements of the crime. You look at everything that has to be defined, whether it's a term of art that is in the statute, whether it's just the crime itself. And what I do, and I'm sure every other lawyer does, the first thing I do, I get all the jury instructions, the way a judge is going to instruct the jury. And this applies in a bench trial too, because although he's not going to read himself the law, it's the same analysis. And you look at that and then you say, this is what I need to do or defend against. How do I prove this, or how do I defend against this? And if the prosecution did it in this case, I'm just dying to know how they feel that these filler witnesses are moving the ball forward at all in anything that will support that. It's not corroborating Noonan. It's not adding anything. It's just suggesting that, we think she's a bad person, or, she might be a little bit crazy or whatever, but that doesn't help them, because you can portray her as crazy as you want. What that would suggest is that she might be unpredictable, and she might do one of two things. She might harm herself. She might just shoot you like Noonan says. But again, when you start saying it could be this or it could be that,
reasonable doubt,
that does not help the party with the burden of proof. You can't have that. And when you start adding it could be this or it could be that, and just throwing all this mud at the wall and hope that it'll stick, it doesn't. Not when you have the burden of proof. And it's not a referendum on is Noonan telling the truth, is Kelsey telling the truth. It's just not the way the judge is going to look at it. And the judge is probably going to acquit, and he's not going to slam Noonan. He's not. When he publishes his verdict, assuming that's what it is, he's going to just talk about reasonable doubt. He's not going to say that I believe that he lied or misled or anything at all like that. It's not going to happen. If anybody's waiting for that, it's not going to happen. He's just going to find her presumably not guilty on burden of proof grounds, and it will sound very vanilla.
which is totally why, I mean, the overall reason why they wanted a bench trial. You know what I mean? Like, this is totally
any possible impact this Justin noise and crazy Kelsey noise could possibly have. It takes it all away. And there are pros and cons, and that's a big pro. I mean, one of the cons maybe for the defense is that Tim is obviously a better trial lawyer in terms of, the way he composes himself and just stylistically. So you would say, gee, I'd kind of want that prosecutor in front of a jury because he's so boring and so stiff. But then you have to check yourself and say, that's not really the issue. The issue is if this is going to get confusing and emotional, but I'm ahead on the law, I just want a sober judge who understands the nuance and the elements of the crime to do that. And that's why presumably they did that. And that's why in certain cases, I always say a bench trial may very well be the way to go. Not every case.
Judge Karp has been great. I think he's been great. He's been calling, the objections. They don't always go in Tim's way, but he always is thoughtful about them. He seems to think them through. Sometimes he's going off the bench to research it and come back out. He's been fair to both sides. I think he's been conducting a really good trial so far.
So do I.
Yeah, no, he's a good judge, and it's straight. And whatever the verdict is, whether you like it or not, it's not going to be because the judge is corrupt. That's not the case.
Absolutely, yeah. Right. It's going to be what it's going to be. But he's been fair. I mean, he's been fair to everybody, and he's been courteous. He's been courteous to both counsel and to the witnesses.
He's also indicated that he will explain the verdict. Now, not every judge does that, and that should be embraced by people because, even if he were to go against what, most people watching this want, which I'm not suggesting he would, he's going to articulate it and subject himself to scathing criticism or respect or whatever, but he's being transparent, or he's pledged that he will be. He doesn't have to give his reasoning, but he will. And even if he were to go the other way, I mean, you listen to his reasoning, it does not mean that, because he's a judge in Massachusetts, that he's presumptively, corrupt. The problem is so many bad things in Massachusetts that a lot of people actually believe that. That's not good for the system to function. But this is a real judge, the kind of judge that we see all the time and because he's just fair. That's all.
I see a very comforting balance in Karp of tough and nice.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I find that balance to be comforting, the way he is with those two things.
Yes.
He's just I never get a vibe off of him like, what's his problem? Ever.
Never.
No.
What I liked about Karp too, sorry, one quick thing. What I liked about Karp was when Houston was on the stand today, he had kind of got into it with Gubitosi a little bit about Houston having two competing statements. And I thought that was very good, bench, operating from the bench the way he did to just say, hey, look, what's what here? And I like that a lot. That's what I'm looking for in a judge that's fair and impartial.
He's paying such careful attention. I mean, he's taking lots of notes.
Yes.
And if he doesn't get something or doesn't understand anything, he asks them to repeat what they just said. He's really concentrated. And then there's been times when he's also been like, wait a second, I'm sorry, I was distracted. Can you say that again? Which that happens, right? I mean, he could just sit there and go, what difference does it make? I don't really need to know that or whatever, but he's actually admitted, like, I was distracted. I mean, I'm not sure what was just said. So I think he's been fair. Tim hasn't won every objection. Gubitosi hasn't won every objection. Nobody expects to win all the objections. I mean, it's just the way it goes, unless you're Hank Brennan. But other than that,
and Bradle's basically, for the most part, at least, got what he has set out to do, which is show the inconsistency in Noonan's story. That's on the prosecution's case totally hung on Noonan's testimony, I think. Mm-hmm. And so in that cross-examination, Bradle did a brilliant job of maintaining the control of the testimony exchange between the two of them, of his cross-examination. while also showing the inconsistencies in his story. I mean, and the story was ridiculous without clowning the guy either. Like, he didn't take jabs at him. He didn't AJ him at all. Like, you know,
the look on Noonan's face was priceless when he was like, "You gave your neighbor an opinion about Kelsey, didn't you?" And then like Noonan, and to me, that kind of went to his credibility too. Instead of Noonan kind of like acknowledging, he was like, he said the name again, like this woman, like, I don't know who that is. It's like, it's your freaking neighbor, and you went and told her that Kelsey's a whack job. But I mean, it really didn't relate to the actual event, but it was landing a shot, and we all got a chuckle out of that. I mean,
yeah.
His body language on.
Oh, there were a couple little shots, but I mean,
it kind of just kept him off balance a little bit. And I'm sure that I have a funny feeling. I don't know. I might be crazy, but I think we might hear that again in the closing.
Yeah, I felt Bradel was kind of like if he had a ping pong ball and two paddles, and he was just kind of playing the, that's just keeping him there, there. But it was in control, and it was great. And
one of the, again, you can't win everything when you pick bench versus jury, and I am sure that one of the things that, because I know I would, that Tim laments probably the most is the whack job would play. Hold on, not a jury, a Massachusetts jury that has already been obsessed with all things Reed and is very familiar with the term whack job and the noun that followed it, at least in that case. And most likely, at least some of them would immediately associate that and get a charge for that. So.
And not just that, but I mean, because when you look at he who shall not be named, Proctor, when he used that term, and a lot of it is like just a complete disrespect for women. And I'm not going to go out on my feminist limb here, but you don't usually hear the word that term whack job associated with the guy, right? I'm just saying, like, she's a whack job. And not only that, but he also testified to the fact that basically she was out on maternity leave the whole time. I didn't even know her. Like, she just had a baby 4 months ago. I mean, other than that, she wasn't on maternity leave. So it's like, I didn't know her, but I knew her enough to tell her all about my PTSD that he didn't claim he had on the stand.
Right. And then showed text messages that are like him. I've been seeing a guy for 10 years. Like, what?
Right. And he's like, I mean, if you say it's there, I guess I did it. Like,
That was so Jen McCabe. Like, well, if it's there, if it's there, I guess okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing was wild. Like, and the whack job thing was slick. Like, I'm glad Mark brought that up, because the whack job thing was slick. Because Noonan never said anything about whack job, right? And then Bradel just threw that in there, and he's like, I didn't say that. And then there's this really slick, like, he slips that in there where he doesn't deny that she's a whack job. Like, he says, well, I thought she was going to kill me. Or no, he says, she's a trained officer. And he says, in a whack job. And he goes, trying to kill me. And then, and so he's like he basically came off like he was agreeing with him that she's a whack job. It was slick. It was super slick.
It was so cool. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Before you move on, you compared what he did about adopting the text messages to Jen McCabe. And actually, I think that was 180 degrees the opposite. He did adopt it, which is what normally you would expect if it's on your phone and your name, and even though you have no independent recollection. My recollection, unless I'm wrong, I don't think I am on this. When she was confronted at both trials, frankly, transcripts and police reports in which it was attributed that she said, the transcripts did not contain what she claimed she always said, I hit him, as opposed to did I hit him or nothing. My recollection is that she said, I don't care what that trooper wrote. I don't care what the grand jury transcript says. I don't care what this other transcript says. I said it. And I guess, the court reporter got it wrong, so to speak. wrong. Everybody got it wrong 11, 12, or 13 times. So I don't think it was similar. I think it was actually
no. I may be mistaking Jen McCabe with somebody else, but I know, like, I've heard someone be like, well, if that's what it says, okay. And concede to their statement, where like grand jury testimony or something to that effect. But now that you mentioned Jen McCabe, absolutely. She totally denied. She was like, I don't care what that piece of paper says. I know what I said.
And I didn't Google anything.
Very interesting because
Whatever.
Noonan, by controlling a witness standard, was very controllable. I mean, obviously, you disagree with a lot of things that he said. There's a little bit of "you've got to be kidding me" that's in your questions, in your brain as you're doing it. But he stayed within the lines. He was respectful. He fell in line when confronted with things. Like he wasn't particularly difficult in terms of with what you saw with some of the witnesses.
He was no Michelle.
No Michelle.
Yeah. It was just Bradel had data to just be like, well, that's not what you said here.
And especially that whole thing with like him not remembering that whole thing with Kelsey. I mean, while she's laying there dying and I forgot about that. How
so crazy. Like I held her hand and she had to stare off into nothing, a void. Like what? That's very different than what you just said, dude. Like way different.
Yeah, maybe because she was dying.
Yeah.
I don't know. Crazy thought.
Yeah,
right.
There was a lot of contradictions between Noonan and Houston. One of them was basically Noonan claiming he was able to fire shots and give commands, while Houston basically testified it was basically bang bang, and that was it. And then you had another situation, I hope I don't forget it now, where Noonan, come on, I don't go blank here. I'll just tap out and move on. I'll come back to it in a second. But yeah. Somebody thought wrong.
I do that all the time.
The three police officers that were there definitely had different things to say about how it went down. And
the section. Sorry, it was about the sectioning. Noonan said he was going to have Kelsey sectioned up front. Then they questioned Noonan about sectioning, and then he's like, "No, Houston's like, no, we didn't. We weren't going to."
And then there's a recording of him saying, "And we're going to section her." Like he closed with that.
Right.
In that recording, he closed with it. Like we're going to section her as a definite. Not we're speculating. Maybe we might. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
Right.
Like we're doing it. That's what we're doing. That's the plan.
So before you move off, something else you mentioned about, he forgot holding her hand and, she's death staring and, basically apologizing for trying to kill me is what he basically
that was his
said. And then he didn't say it, and you say, okay, he's inconsistent. And that's true. But the devastating part of that is when a skilled advocate in summation explains why that matters in terms of what exactly was said back then and not said then. I mean, back then, he's worried about getting jammed up because I just thought a woman in her own home who may die, or I'm going to get investigated, I'm going to get this and that. And it's critical at that point in time. You don't know what's going to happen with the prosecutors, internal affairs, an investigation. And he tells the investigation that she apologized, basically, meaning she did it. It was a good shoot. And once the case went a certain way, grand jury obviously refused to indict for, in essence, what Noonan is selling. They would not buy it. I mean, should have been a ground ball attempted murder indictment if they credited what he said at a low standard of proof. Stuff starts coming out. Case isn't necessarily going so well. And now he's, cleared, if you will. And all of a sudden that statement, which is very self-serving, made at a time where he had every interest to be self-serving, no matter how ridiculous the statement it might be at the time, he's not making now. And then he says, well, I kind of don't remember it. And that calls into question the next issue, which is, if he doesn't remember that, okay, the idea of my, woman who was my former partner on this case, that I bonded with, who I now claim I don't really know, but who I sent these encouraging text messages about, carry on, we'll get therapy, we'll be okay, all of that stuff. And then he says, I don't even remember that. It makes you wonder, is that true? Or if it is true, what else might you be screwing up in terms of the timeline of shots coming? And that's where it really will matter, is in the summation. When you bring it all home, you say, Your Honor, how credible can you really find him? Not as a liar, but as a reliable reporter of facts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he doesn't remember that, how's he going to? I mean, and that was just a shit show altogether right there. His testimony and the story of Kelsey. You know what I'm saying? Like that was wild. I mean, she's arm's length away, and then she's taking a step back, or she's taking a sidestep, and then the sidestep doesn't make sense. So she took a step back. Like, okay. And then there's a 15-foot, right. She was 15 feet away when he shot the air conditioner, but there's the room is only 11 by 12 or something like that. And
8 feet from the door
and
frame
he's
to
3
the
feet
window.
and he's 4 feet tops, arm's length from her.
He has firearms training at a military level, and he has firearms training at a police level.
Right.
And he was a matter of feet away from her.
But
There's
all
no
of a
reason why
sudden,
he's not going 1-for-1.
She became Angelina Jolie, and she was like ninjaing around the room. Like, it was like,
come on.
Boom, boom. She was like bouncing off the walls.
The only
It's not the Matrix.
You would like to have seen, because I mean, he said 15. That's an estimate. That's not scientific. Normally, what you'll see is, well, you're on the witness stand. Tell me how far, and then you would say, for the record, that looks to be approximately however many feet. Can we all agree? And you agree, and the record says that. But and especially if you have him not say 15 feet, have him show 15 feet if that's really what he's going to claim. And then what's going to happen in a couple of days? They're going on a field trip, and the judge is going to see, okay? And you're going to say, one of the things you would say is, Judge, take note of the distance, okay? And so it would be nice to have had not just the testimony, 15 feet or whatever he claimed it was, but the actual demonstration of what it was, and then take that into the crime scene and then show that it can't be, and then in summation and say, look, Judge, doesn't fit. It's a square peg in a round hole. What are they doing? It can't be.
And you can't say that one moment it's 15 feet, and then in the next moment it's almost within arm's reach.
Right.
Like, the two don't go. It was just horrible. He came completely undone on cross. His body language was completely different from cross. And he has a lot of police friends that are in the audience. And I was watching them during his testimony, and they were all extremely nervous. Deep breaths, looking down. I mean, they had totally different demeanor.
That's
as well.
interesting.
Yes, it's very.
And then they all got up en masse when it was over and exited. Yeah, it was. I don't know. I felt, that made me kind of feel bad for Kelsey, because she's one of them too. And the one thing I will say, so Houston, I felt like was out of the three officers that testified, he to me was the most reluctant one. He gave off major vibes that he did not want to be there. If you were in the courtroom, you could see he refused to make eye contact with Kelsey. Kelsey was staring him, and that was a brilliant move on Tim's part yesterday. Tim was like, Kelsey can't see the witnesses. The defendant can't see the witnesses. So the judge was like, oh, move her so she can see the witnesses. And I think that was great, because Houston just kind of kept looking down. He did not want to make eye contact. And you don't get that when you're just looking at the stream. But he did not. Don't you agree with me, Lauren? He did not want to make eye contact with Kelsey.
Me and Lori talked after, and it was funny because we both noticed that.
Yeah, he was like, whenever he was talking, he wasn't even really thrilled about making eye contact with Attorney Bradel. But with Kelsey, And she made sure she just looked straight at him the whole time, because it was almost like he knew he was doing her dirty. That's how,
Yeah.
and his testimony, I felt, really didn't hurt her. You know, he basically, what he heard was, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The other thing that I don't know if anybody else picked up on this, but like Noonan's story is, you know, quick succession. And then he got kind of messed up about a time in between, and he was yelling in between, and she didn't drop it. But then it was kind of like, no, while I was shooting, I was telling her to, you know, to drop it or whatever. I mean, gunshots are really loud. So like, how much are people going to be hearing over the actual gunshots if they were like in that? I don't know. It's just, and nobody heard Kelsey drop it. Nobody heard that at all. One person heard Kelsey, just the name Kelsey. Another one was Kelsey, don't do it. Nobody heard stop. Nobody heard drop it. And then when they all had different versions of like what Kelsey said while she was laying there dying, basically. And none of the things were like, you know, you didn't hear Noonan, why did you point the gun at me, Kelsey? It wasn't that. It was like, I'm sorry. You know, like that, it just like things that really, to me,
why?
By the way, I mean, that it's like, okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to die. Well, I mean, the one guy, I just wanted to die. I mean, like the daily. Oh, and the other ones didn't really help prosecution at all. To me, that one really helped the defense. You know, I just wanted to die. That helps the defense. The other things didn't help the prosecution. I don't know. I don't see where they moved the needle at all.
And Bradel even says at the beginning of the cross-examination, he basically asks him, it was like in succession, it was quick, boom, boom, like that, right? And he goes, yes, he agrees, yes. But then he says, well, how could that have happened? I mean, you're saying now that you gave instructions in between the two shots, but they went boom, boom. That makes no sense. When did you have time to give these instructions?
Right. That's exactly right.
It was very convoluted.
Prosecutor's going to say, you know, as much as the defense is trying to parse it out as if it's like Zapruder film in Dallas, Texas, frame, they're going to say that
Dealey Plaza.
All of this, by the way, if you've never been there, that's a fascinating place to go.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list. Seriously, it is. Yeah, no, seriously.
I don't want to get off point, but I mean,
yeah, I know.
If you go stand under the window and you say like, yeah, there's something's not right here.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, we won't
grassy
do that.
knoll, grassy knoll, grassy knoll.
Another show.
There's also a manhole cover where you can fit in and tuck yourself in, and yeah, if you've seen that there, yeah.
What the prosecution is going to say is that all of this is going to be literally like 2 or 3 seconds, whether it's a word shot, whether it's all happening at the same time. No, granted, it didn't come out well when Noonan made 2 versions of it, from what he first said way back then and what he said today. And then what he did try to say on cross, and the judge is probably going to accept this, by the way. I mean, again, the judge is not looking at him as some corrupt, lying, whatever.
Right. The
judge is going to say, this stuff happens fast. It's fast moving. It's intense. Words come out. Shots are fired. I recognize this is all, 2, 3, 4 seconds. And I don't think he's going to get hung up on that. The problem I think he has are the words that he said and what everybody heard, which appear to be more plausible and reasonable towards the defense theory than the prosecution theory. And they don't have to argue about it because they all agree.
Mm-hmm.
Both the prosecution and the defense.
Yeah.
How about the whistleblowers?
Oh, sorry, that came out of nowhere, right? The whistleblowers?
The whistleblowers.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I've been hearing that too, that not everybody likes Chief Gray. Let's just put it that way. His own workers, that's something that has come to my attention just since I've been here. So that didn't shock me when he said that, because I've heard the same thing since I've been here.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. He doesn't treat people very fairly.
Yeah. And you got Katie Gerke there who actually sued him, and then there was another female officer that had issues. It just makes you wonder about what these female officers are going through. And, I wonder, is there potentially another female officer on the force that was in good with Kelsey? Obviously, probably not Katie. But, that was a whistleblower here and was like, look, there could be another officer on that force or two. I'm getting the impression it was more than one. That are basically of the belief that, they could be friends with Kelsey, but there's this blue wall, this code of silence that you don't, no matter what all your fellow officers do, you don't speak out against them. But there's officers there that probably got along with Kelsey. They're probably officers that confided in her time and time again and said, I really don't like this chief. You know what? I really don't like this officer. I think this is a good old boy network in this police department. And then they see Kelsey go down, the way she did in that home that day. And they see the officers that are involved. And for all we know, they're sitting there saying, it figures this would have happened this way. And they'd have no remorse about going underneath the table and discreet, disclosure to Bradel and saying, look, this is what we've experienced on this department. And we've seen these officers act this way and that way. And quite frankly, this is sickening. And I wouldn't be shocked if that exists or not. Or Bradel could have just, used it as fluff to try to see if he could throw somebody off and rattle some cages too. You never know. But either way. It's intriguing.
Yeah, and I think the judge asked him if they were he investigated these whistleblowers, and he said yes. So I think it's all very legit.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So,
He said he vetted them.
Yeah, vetted
Yeah,
him.
that's right. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah,
That's the word he used.
good point. Yeah, you did vet him. You're right. Now that I think about it.
One of the other advantages of a bench trial is you have the rare position where the fact finder is the law guy at the same time, and as the law guy, you may hear things which are deemed inadmissible for the fact finder, and we all just accept theoretically that a judge is capable of excising from his mind and throwing down the memory hole when it comes to analyzing the case what he's not supposed to hear. But again, one of the advantages of a bench trial is lawyers, will often take liberties and start talking about things that a jury would never hear, such as, Your Honor, there are multiple whistleblowers in the North Andover police. That's my source. Now, the jury would never hear that. The judge,
I know.
He's not going to treat that as evidence, but, nevertheless, you can't unhear what you've heard.
I was literally just about to ask, I was going to say, I have a question for Mark and Lori. Why did the judge give him wiggle room because it's a bench trial versus a jury trial with the 3 questions? And I think you just answered that.
He's not as concerned about strict rules of evidence because if something happens that he later realizes should not be admissible, he will say, I'm disregarding that. Don't worry about it. And the lawyers, again, is how the system functions. You accept that because, it's a bench trial and you trust the judge to do that. Right. Whereas, and that's why he said, if this was a jury trial, I'm not doing this because it could be too prejudicial. It could be inadmissible. I'm not risking it. And then you create possible appellate issues. You have virtually no chance of winning an appeal on these discretionary issues or what, the fact finder heard on a bench trial because, the judge presumptively throws out the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I think too, what a big shock value that had for the 10, 11 people in the audience from North Andover, the officers that are there hearing, there's whistleblowers in your department.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, one of them was like, I hope they don't, they're kind of sitting there like, hope they don't realize it's me.
Right. That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
Very true. Very true.
I knew it was you, Carl. Knew it was you. Always blowing the whistle every single time. Yeah. But no, seriously, it's great to have whistleblowers. And like you guys reminded me of, he did vet them, which is absolutely fantastic.
Sometimes we need snitches. We don't like them, but
seriously.
Sometimes we need them.
I mean, you look at someone like Peter Murphy in Canton, who's since retired, and he's someone that does not agree with what he saw going down in that town of Canton at all. And it's not far removed for us to even think for a moment that you would, and like I said, it sounds like there's more than one. And I believe that. I absolutely believe that for sure. And Kerry Cope, thank you so much. You are welcome. These are great people here. Attorney Mark Betterow, Lori, Lori Mullen, Lauren Katie, and of course the Glare joining me tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. This is a big case. This is something we've been following for a while, a lot of us, and for me, this is what I've hoped for happen for a long time, is that this story would explode and that eyes and ears would be on this case. Because if you cared about the Karen Reed case, this is another case where another situation has unfolded where there's a lot of shadiness going on, and there's a level of corruption and cover-up involved to a high level of a degree here. And Kelsey Fitzsimmons does not deserve anything that's happened to her at all. And the worst of it, in my opinion, is already come and gone, but that's unacceptable. This woman's been in a horrific situation for far too long, coming up on nearly 10 months now. And, this is someone that deserves all the attention she can get. And I think everybody that's either joined a fundraiser, watched a fundraiser, donated during a fundraiser during my show, Lauren's show, of course, on Common Sense Investigator. And I'm probably going to do another one on Sunday as well, because I think we're going to, prepare her for the upcoming family court that's coming up, because it's one thing to get these charges removed, but the big prize, and I don't mean prize as a reward, but it's a Noonan joke. That's what this is all about. It's about her getting her life back, and her life, and what matters most to her, I would have to believe, is her baby. And what happened here is that you have fellow officers that were involved that day have held her own child more recently than she has. And that can't stand it. If you look at the horror on her mother's face when Justin's fleeing the scene, and she's absolutely horrified, not knowing if her daughter's alive, knowing that this child's being taken away, this is something that makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. And again, I can't thank everyone enough for their participation, posting about this on X, making donations, buying popcorn, sharing the links. For the people that are joining my show right now, I cannot thank you guys enough. This has been an absolute fight. And Kelsey Fitzsimmons and her family and her friends, and for her defense team, this is absolutely worth the fight for them. And what we learned a couple of years ago is when you mess with someone like Karen Reed, we have people now that can stand up for her. When you mess with someone like Kelsey Fitzsimmons, you have people that back up with them. And don't you ever dare try to silence the internet or any journalists about this at all, like Aidan Carney and other people that have attempted to record or do whatever they need to do, not inside of court, obviously, but outside of court, to cover this case and try to push anybody like us around, because this is a First Amendment country. We do have the freedom of speech here. And when we see something that's an injustice, we are going to talk about it, and we're not going to be intimidated, and we're going to continue to stand up and stand tall. So I thank everybody for continuing to stand up for Kelsey Fitzsimmons, rocking your Purple Hearts, doing everything you can. Look, it's a big thing here, and we're making a difference. And Lauren and Lori, these are two ladies that don't live in the state, that have flown out just to be here for this trial.
I do live in the state.
That's right. Sorry, Lauren, my mistake. I forgot about that.
Okay. I wouldn't want to. I don't want to get that.
KY was the other one. Yeah,
but I did have
KY Maverick.
Sorry
about that. Lauren and KY Maverick, I was thinking, my mistake. It was
exactly. Yeah. I mean, Lauren definitely gets the kudos for the traveling. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, he drove. KY Maverick drove. So
he did. He drove.
Yeah.
Well, he drove so quickly that it was like he flew up here. There we go. We're gonna fix these words up a little bit to make them all work.
and my clients, I don't know if any of them are watching, but they actually think I'm on vacation, and now they know I'm mental because this is how I spend my vacations. Something's got to be wrong with you.
Yeah, that's great.
And that was a nice. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say real quick, Mazza. The lawyer is covering this case now, and
yes,
I just found that out. I was thrilled. That's huge. It
is huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Runkle's covering it too. I think Runkle's been covering it for a while, and I know that these attorneys online, I mean, they're covering cases nationwide. They're covering, like someone like myself. It's usually just Massachusetts, obvious, or always Massachusetts.
Listen,
but them, it's like
I don't care what anybody says. Like Mazza's the OG when it comes to covering the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case. I don't care who comes along now, picks it up. Mazza's the OG. He's been at the front lines of this thing from the beginning, and he's been killing it, and he's been raising money, and he's been raising awareness, and that's not going to be overlooked as long as I have breath in my lungs.
Thank you, Will. Appreciate that.
And
And you know
Mark,
me, I'm always reaching out to people about, like, I've been reaching out to people on the side for months, like, hey, we need to cover this case. Hey, you need to cover this case on your show. And, you know, reaching out to people, you know, well, you and I might have had this conversation 6 or 7 months ago. I don't know, but I was like pitching this to everybody. I'm like, we need to cover this case and get it out here and amplify it. I'm just happy about it because, you know, I these stories really
everybody
bother
that's
me.
there is watching you, Mark. Everybody that's at the court is watching Mazza. They say it to Lauren and I every single day. Oh, we saw you on Mazza last night. Mazza's so great. Mazza's the best. So
thank you guys.
You know, definitely that's what we're hearing. We hear, and you know, are you gonna be back on Mazza tonight? That's what I heard all day today. So
Thank you. Can confirm.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Appreciate that. No, I'm flattered, but no, I thank everybody else for coming out. The people that are out there, they're rocking the purple shirts. They're out there supporting Kelsey.
Yes.
This is great. And, you know, backing up the defense team. This is a passionate defense team. Tim Bradle's not just a great attorney. Tim Bradle's a great human being. He's, you know, he represents a lot of people. Obviously, Aiden Carney, one of his clients, as Mark Vetero represents as well. And, you know, these are cases that are major issues in our state that are going on. These are big fights. And, you know, like I said, this is, you know, Bradle cares about this. And I see the way he relates to his Courtney and Martha, but also with Kelsey throughout, you know, the videos that you saw aired live for those of us that had to watch on our own time. But you see the way he interacts. He's very a personable attorney. You know, he's the kind of attorney you can meet and greet, say hello to, cares about the people that are supporting. Anybody can attend family courts, my understanding. But that's huge. And that's what I like about him, because it makes me believe in him. You know, when I believe in him, I know I can believe in the truth of his client, which is Kelsey. And thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate that. Seattle needs to get the Supersonics back. Let's just leave it at that. Supersonics need to be back in Seattle.
They are. They got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good. But yeah, no, I'm happy for Kelsey. And this is gonna, like I said, this is gonna be a big win. There's more than enough reasonable doubt. I trust Judge Karp with the end result. So at least right now, unless he shocks me.
I mean, Noonan tried to murder her in the chest, bro. Like, that's it. Like, that's enough. Let her go. Leave her alone.
Right.
You know, let her try to
suffered enough.
let her try to fight for her baby now. Like, that's it.
And I think that's a good point too, because I think Mark had mentioned this, meaning Attorney Vetero, because I know we have two Marks on the panel here, but he had mentioned about this case moving very quickly, right? I mean, it hasn't been a year. This incident happened on June 30th. We're not up on a year yet. But I think one of the reasons why Tim has been resistant to like having continuances, think about it. He was still getting notices of discovery last week. You know, so he had to be keeping up with all this stuff and completely evolving and changing his plans in terms of like testimonies and who's calling as witnesses. But he didn't want to have to continue the trial because he knew that would continue to put Kelsey's life on hold.
So, yeah, I mean, the real reason, in my view, a case like this, you think you're going to win. You want to win, obviously, but winning in Kelsey's mind you have to get rid of this and you have to go to the next forum and take your baby back legally, obviously. And possession is 9/10 of the law. And if you are a criminal defendant accused of what she's doing, you don't get the kid back. That's just not how it's going to work. So the longer it was hanging over her head, all that's doing is delaying the, you know, hopefully for her, the victory at the end, which is reunification with her child. So
the longer it goes on, the worse it becomes for her, you know, regardless of the situation. And Tim recognized that, which a lot of attorneys don't. I mean, it's like, it's not easy with his schedule to make sure it all gets done and to fit it in and to keep the trial on track. Because this within a month or two has always been the trial date. And when this case first started, it was like a pretty simple case, but then it turned into this whole other animal, but he still worked to keep it on track. And here we are. I mean, you know, he's doing it. And I think the situation with even the bench trial, because regardless, you're going to have a decision. We're going to have a decision. The one thing we're not going to have is a mistrial. We're going to have a decision one way or another at the end of this. And, you know, and to Mark's point, I've had people that have been convicted of a lot worse crimes still get parenting time with their child, still eventually unify with their child. So it's not unheard of. I mean, and I don't think she's going to be found guilty. I don't mean to imply that. But think about it. If it was, here we go, Karen Reed 2.0, she finishes up, weeks of a jury trial and it's a mistrial. And now what? No, well, that kind of complicates things a little bit more, and she's looking at another trial 6 months from now again. That's tough. I mean, when you have your child at stake, you don't want to do that.
Right. And that was the nightmare with the Karen Reed case, obviously, is we all thought that was going to be a one-off. And then all of a sudden, one ruling by Judge Beverly Canoni and a confusing jury slip later, there we all were a year later. It's like, my God. And with Kelsey, there's, it's bad enough you potentially would have to go to a second trial with a jury trial. But when you have the child involved, and as we know with Kelsey, the worst part for Kelsey is even the day she gets her child back, even though it's going to be a great day, there's so much time that has been lost, and all of this could have been avoided. You're never going to get that back. And
never getting that back. Yeah. What she's lost, you can't put anybody who's a parent, you can't put a dollar sign on that. You can't quantify it. She's lost so much, but. And for her to stay so as strong as she stayed, it says a lot about her character, so that's, I think, kind of why I get so pissed off when I hear whack job. Like, this woman is not a whack job. I'm just saying she's stoic. She's there. She's assisting them. She's focused. We all go through things in life. She's pretty far from a whack job.
Yeah.
I think
and this whack job worked 80 hours a week. This whack job had her own house at 26. This whack job went to half as, college for being an attorney in her short lifetime. Now she was a police officer. This was a very credible, beautifully smart woman who they're trying to discredit. So to go along with Lori's point, I think that is why a lot of us are so angry. It's just wrong.
But she didn't have her laundry folded, Lauren. So
yeah, oh my God, she was getting to that. It was on the couch for later.
I mean, come on.
Unreal. And then the grandparents too. I mean, the grandparents have not been able to see this child either, which has been an absolute it's devastating to watch, quite honestly. I mean, there is no RO on them, yet they can't see this child, and it's just.
But the worst part, about missing your child, for a young mother missing not a newborn literally, but a young baby, who, I mean, if ever there's a time you need the nurturing, you need your mother. When they start sponging information and bonding and relationship, I mean, that of all times to lose your child, to be a, postpartum is bad enough as it is and all this other stuff. Then they take away, your child for the better part of a year at that age. And as you said, your own family doesn't even have access. That can get messy. And even when things change, there's a lot of uncertain reconnection and just returning to normalcy. That will be very difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and one of the things.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Lauren.
No, I was just gonna say. So if it pisses you off too, go donate, because her defense fund's pinned
to
the
top of the chat.
See that, but it just reminded me when I think it was Mark mentioned about the grandparents not seeing the child. Noonan had talked about the mother. So Kelsey's mom had come to the scene, and she may be testifying. I think she would be the last one left to testify of the people that were actually at the house, the people that actually have information about what was going on in the house, because Kelsey's mother was also in the house. So she's been waiting to testify. But one of the things that Noonan had testified to today on cross-examination, when he said he wasn't aware that Justin was coming to the house, and he's like, well, there was an older, this was his words, I put it in quotes. First of all, I'm insulted because she's younger than me, but we'll leave that aside. I can take that personal insult, but there's an older woman causing a scene. Oh, now was she really? grandmother's coming to the house, and she's finding out her grandchild's being taken away from her daughter, and oh, how dare she come here and be causing a scene, asking these officers WTF is going on, and why are you taking my daughter? You know, it was like this was his testimony that he's, you know, and at some point Tim said, because he was like, you know, well, I mean, it was just serving the order, it wasn't like, and he's like, oh, it was just another day for you, just another day for you, he says to Noonan. I love that.
That was smooth.
I loved it.
Yeah, and again, another reason why these officers had no business serving that order is because they knew them. No doubt some of those people also knew Kelsey's mom. It should have never happened. It should have been done by an outside department who had no kind of familiar ties, nothing. It was just so inappropriate.
Right. And then she's the whack job who he thinks he's coming to section. And, you know, they keep, one of the things the prosecution, I think, keeps emphasizing is that she lied about where the guns were. Okay, so is this the first time you've ever had someone lie to you about anything? Because they're like, it's all her fault because she told us they were in the basement. It's like, okay, you asked her for a reason and you needed to remove firearms. That was part of the restraining order. So they were going to have to get them eventually. Why didn't you go? If they had just gone in the basement to secure the firearms, that none of this would have happened, because they would have seen that they weren't there and they would have discovered the lie. So it really goes back to a CYA on their complete lack of following proper procedure. And, you know, none of this should have happened, and it was really all on them. But there's never been an explanation of, well, why didn't you? And Tim pressed that a little bit today. Did you ever get them? You know, and Noonan said that's why he was wearing the big glove thing, right? Because everybody was worried about him wearing the gloves. He said that's why he was wearing the gloves, because he knew he needed to go in the house and secure firearms, and yet he never did.
Takes
Which
him off.
makes me wonder, was that his job when he was going in that house? Was it his job to go get the weapons? None of the other officers had the gloves on.
Right.
So did that fall on him? I mean, they cannot do that. They can't say that they're scared of kitchen knives. All these butcher block things around with the kitchen knives.
She had knives in her kitchen.
Unbelievable.
They'd be in the bathroom.
Laundry
That's
on
where
the
knives
couch.
go.
What a whack job.
My grandmothers, both my grandmothers, believe it or not, who were a very wonderful woman, had so many knives that you think they were John Rambo and Uma Thurman and Kill Bill.
Yeah, that would have been one of the moments, especially.
Maybe she was and you didn't know it.
Could have been.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Mark.
Like to have seen, again, this means nothing towards the result of the case, but the whole kitchen knife thing would have been one of those moments where in my head you would have those like cartoon, the two devils, you know, the one on your shoulder saying don't do this, and the other one saying
the Looney Tunes.
You have to at least consider going into a 5-minute discussion with, you know, are familiar with the term kitchen knife, right? Do you know what that term is and what it is? And that by definition, it is a knife that is, you know, commonly kept in the kitchen and used as a cutting instrument by all civilized people for the last 150 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd be more concerned if there were machetes in the nursery, you know?
Have you ever been in a home or a kitchen where there are, you know, kitchen knives, sir? I mean, whatever. Obviously, it wouldn't have served any real point other than having a little fun. But, yeah, that was a little
hatchet under the pillow.
Yeah.
But don't give me this spiel about you were so concerned to walk through the kitchen because there was knives everywhere, but you didn't take the time to go in the basement. Literally, Houston said, I didn't want to go down there, though, if I didn't need to go down there.
No, he was afraid of the dark. It sounded like he was afraid of the dark. The light didn't turn on.
How lazy are you? Go down there. And people lie to you every day. To your point, Mazza, this wasn't their first restraining order that they had ever served. People lie. That's why you were to secure them. To secure them is to have them in your custody. Take them. Put your hands on them. Yeah. They didn't do any of that.
And everybody
this was their fault.
Was it more than one of them, Lauren, was saying like they thought they had like the empty holsters, like all okay. So if something belongs in those holsters,
where's it at?
Where are they? Like it just makes no sense. It's like, oh, like they made a big deal out of that. Oh, look at this. Oh, well, it's empty. Okay. Oh, okay. Like maybe you need to go find. Oh, but she assured us they were in the basement.
Okay. You still got to secure them
Okay.
to go down there and get them. When they didn't see them, then maybe we talk again.
Yeah.
You do
Am I mistaken, or didn't Kelsey say that there were guns in the basement?
Yeah.
Or
But they
something
didn't
like that?
ever check it.
So
They didn't check. They just took her word for it.
Again, why they shouldn't have been serving the thing. They gave her a courtesy that they probably wouldn't have given other people.
Yeah.
They had
So
no business being there.
How are we to believe that there was any intention to secure weapons in the first place if they made no effort to when they were told where the weapons were?
Right.
And they have to, because it's part of the restraining order. So eventually, if all of this stuff didn't happen, you know, that was surrendering the firearms is part of the actual 209A.
Yeah, it's in there.
So they had to get them at some point. So you think, you know, let's start with that. Why don't we just start? That seems to be a good place to start with executing this 209A. But instead, no, we're worried about, you know, empty holsters and kitchen knives in the kitchen. Yeah. Weird.
It just shows how, and these guys are just completely unqualified for this. This situation should have never gone the way it went. I mean, it's just from the jump, from the second they enter that home. Noonan not knowing. I think he said he didn't know if Justin was in the home. You know, things like that were said. It's like, come on. And then the fact that he missed the first shot, and then she was moving away. It's just, come on. This is all far fetched. You know, and then again, where the firearm landed underneath her leg. If she's aiming it outright and she gets hit, you know, that's going to land probably in front of her or off to the side. But if it's off to the side of her, you know, in a gun to temple or whatever situation, that gun's either landing on the side or it's landing somewhere underneath her.
I mean,
what happened?
Like, I don't know. I thought that was a bit of a stretch on Tim's part, just because, like, I mean, that could have landed under her leg when she fell down. Who knows? It could have bounced up against something and bounced back and ended up behind her somehow. I mean, that's
an issue. The judge is not. That's not going to carry
right.
any weight.
Okay.
Okay. We're all amateurs. I get it. It feels like this. The more interesting question is, you know, the prosecution for at least the last several months has been aware that what the defense is going to be, and that, you know, it's going to be she was trying to kill herself. You know, they certainly learned a lesson from the grand jury that, you know, Noonan isn't necessarily the best communicator of, you know, what's going on and getting people to go with it. And so if they were going to try this case, you almost wonder why the prosecution would not hire an expert on, you know, whether it's crime scene reconstruction. God, here we go again with all that stuff, or some kind of firearm, whatever, some kind of whatever. I'm not even sure what the proper expert for this would be, whether it's physics or it probably is something like certainly not Aperture, but ARCA. And if they had the right professional to talk about the force from being blown back by a gunshot at this time, and kinetic energy with the body and the weight of a gun and the body moving, where would it go? Suppose they commissioned that experiment and the expert is credible, not, you know, blue paint man. That's not what I'm talking about. Suppose they find the right expert who comes back with an opinion and says, under the laws of physics and force and all the stuff that we need experts for, they say the gun could totally land under her. I mean, that's potentially a game changer, potentially, if they have that. Now, of course, if they had it and then got the opinion they didn't like and then shoved it in the Brady shredder, that would be bad, obviously. But if you have the burden of proof here and you're having a tough time selling your narrative, you almost wonder why not do that and see what they tell you. And conversely, if very serious experts who are qualified, you know, again, we're analogizing to the ARCA guys, were to come back and say that does not make any sense, okay, but the gun to the head does, then you would hope that you would see what you sure as hell did not see in Karen's case, which would be a prosecutor saying, I need a timeout to reevaluate my life choices here and figure out why are we doing this, because we seem to be betting on the wrong horse here. it seems to me that a prosecutor, again, who knowing what the issues are, you would want to see intellectual curiosity, might consider doing that. But these are the people whose response is, I don't need to know what's in the statements of Noonan. It doesn't matter. And it's not in my possession, custody, or control. So who cares?
Yeah, I'm not criticizing why Tim went that route at all.
Not at all.
I'm just saying, I'm pointing it out. Like, it could be argued, if one were so inclined, that it could have possibly, but the burden of proof is on the prosecution. I saw that as a very effective way on Tim's part to just gain a little more yardage towards that.
Yeah, sure.
You know
It was
what
a
I'm
running
saying?
play for 5 yards. Right. It was a
Right.
5-yard run. But I would say this, though. I would say,
And it was effective. It was effective.
Right. You'd have to look at it in terms of probability. Oh, sorry, Mark, just for a quick second. You'd have to look at this in terms of probability. If the gun was outright, what's the probability of it landing under the leg, or the, and then the same thing with the head. Is it higher? Is like a 35% chance versus a 10? So it could be like that. It could be rare. You could, I'm not saying no one's right or wrong, but I'm just curious about the probability. What's the rate on that? Mark, go ahead.
Everything Will says 100% accurate. The Glare School of Law and stuff is on a roll. Do it. You don't know what the witness is going to say. He might say something stupid. He might get flustered. He might whatever. For all you know, the fact finder might say, gee, that makes sense. Now, in front of a jury, assuming it is a permissible argument that doesn't get objected to and kept out because it's kind of crackpot speculation by we don't know, you may get a juror who's like, oh my God, like it has to be. What I'm saying is this judge has so much to analyze and so much to do and so much in front of him that the issue of where the gun landed, I am almost virtually certain if he does find an acquittal and is stating his reasons, that will not be mentioned as one of them.
Yeah. Especially without an expert. I mean, how, he can't really just come to
credit it as reliable evidence that we can't all understand how a gun could get here or there.
Right. And it's not like she went down like a ton of bricks immediately. I mean, there was like, she was, who knows what happened with her arm and where it ending up and her releasing the firearm at that point. One of the things I think, I'm just trying to look at it from if I was the judge, one of the things that I think would be very persuasive to me is this whole issue of, and they've all tested, all three officers, she kept trying to give them things to get them out of the room, trying to get them. So if you're trying to kill someone and you're going on a murderous rage, you're not trying to get them to leave. And every one of those prosecution witnesses, that all those officers, they all stated the same thing. When she was handing me this, she handed me a bag of books. She put, was giving me clothes, and I didn't want to hold them because I didn't want my hands to be full or whatever. But they and Tim questioned them and said, did she want you to bring those downstairs? Was she trying to get you to leave? And they were like, yeah, she was trying to get us to leave. I mean, if I was the judge, that to me, that would be a very important factor.
That is
powerful.
Well, that's beyond powerful. That is compelling and one of the strongest, if not the strongest point you would have as a lawyer, because you're trying to demonstrate that her conduct is entirely inconsistent with attempted murder, which is what the evidence from Noonan is, and entirely consistent with someone who's going to blow her brains out and doesn't want you around and wants to be alone to get access to the firearm. So there's no question that by summation time, that will be a primary focus, that all of these little facts, the little things like Columbo always talks about that add up and lead you to the bigger things. Those little things are in fact not little at all. Those are things that make sense and are totally inconsistent with somebody who would do that and then 5 minutes later, for no reason, apparently try to murder a cop who she, shared a traumatic experience with a year ago. So I agree with you, but even more so. I mean, that is extremely powerful and favorable, and you add it to the statements and you start putting the pebbles on the scale with reasonable doubt, and that's where you're going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just to play devil's advocate, at the same time, couldn't the judge just as easily consider the possibility that Kelsey made this decision to attempt to murder Noonan quickly, you know, and it right at one crucial moment, like at 1 minute she's trying to get him to leave, and then after that she makes the decision, I want to kill him.
Well, a murder case, an intentional murder case, can be prosecuted where intent is formed in a nanosecond before you pull the trigger.
Right.
So the answer is yes, but again, here we are speculating, well, it could be this or this, but that's against this evidence that we're talking about. It doesn't mean it can't be true, but
it's
all these compelling facts which make perfect sense about I'm trying to clear the room to harm myself. And you know what she's going to testify. I was going to harm myself.
Right.
In Daly's words, Daly's testimony backs that up because he said that Kelsey said that. Go ahead, Lauren.
No, I was just going to say we're almost at the end of the prosecution's case. What have they proved?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Right.
Yeah. It's just they have no case. That's what it all boils down to. There's more than enough reasonable doubt. Daly said what he said. Noonan was not convincing. I mean, you know, and I love the way Bradle this morning was giving Noonan a tough time every time Noonan stopped talking. He's like, I'm talking. You know, I'm asking the questions here. That was beautiful. That was like,
yeah, but he fell in line. How you control a witness? I mean, and to the witness' credit, he behaved when he was, you know, slapped on the wrist. He did.
Right.
Not every witness does that, as you've seen in other cases.
Yeah. Right. He said he made some comment. I forget what it was, but it was something like about, well, it was a tactical or whatever. And Noonan disagreed with him and said something else. He's like, well, wouldn't that be tactical? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you know, but you wouldn't agree with me. And he's like, and then it was like, I wrote in my note, sassy Bradle, because he was like, because I said it. You know, it was a very funny moment. There was a couple of times when people were like, we had to be scolded. Let's just say that we were scolded a couple of times.
Well, I heard there was a big reaction about when Michelle was on the stand. Lauren, we were talking about this earlier. You know, when she was on the stand initially, and she had that big attitude because she was so nice and friendly, and everyone wants to hang out with her. I heard the court officer go, "Everyone, quiet down now."
We were all like, "What? Like, are you kidding me?" She was so like, fresh and mean to like for like zero reason.
No reason.
Just, woof, you know. And a few times in a row, and it was like, okay, she ain't doing it. And I know we already talked about it, but I'm still so confused about what she was doing there. I mean, it just makes. I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, not that I hate it for her, but like, why did they bring her here? Why did they like?
Makes no sense.
Like, she wasted a whole day. Not that I hate that, because good, waste a lot more days. She's clearly a gem, but like, come on, what are we doing?
It was just weird. I kept waiting for the thing that she was going to say that was going to give us the reason for her actually being there, and it never came.
Mr. Bettero, I have a question, and it's not like a big one or anything, but is this just habit for...
Go ahead.
Is this just habit for Mr. Gubitosi to like constantly ask a witness to point out the defendant if they see him in the room? Because it's a bench trial. We all know who she is.
No, that's normal. Because in order to refer to the person as a defendant, you have to have them identified. So, I mean, we did this as prosecutors all the time. You know, you would start, you know, the first time. I mean, he did it in an interesting way. He did it very late in the examination, which kind of defeats the purpose if you want to refer to them as the defendant. But normally what we would do, once they would be, the name would come up and you'd say, you know, do you recognize Miss Fitzsimmons in the courtroom? And you'd say, yeah, she's the one sitting over there, and, you know, indicating the defendant. And usually what, from a defense side, what you would do stylistically is when they go through that process and they're about to have, you know, the finger point at the defendant, the lawyer, someone like me, will just get up and say, "Judge, indicating the defendant." You know, like, we're not, there's nothing to this. It's just to refer to, rather than referring to, you know, Miss Fitzsimmons, to make her sound guilty because she's called the defendant. I mean, you see it all the time. Usually you'll also see lawyers try to stop the prosecution from using the word victim, because a victim is a conclusion. That's an editorial term as opposed to an alleged victim. But even that term can carry some weight. But you'll see that all the time too.
Okay, so it's more about them wanting to use that word, the defendant, than
Yeah.
it is about
Has
the
no
identification.
significance
Okay.
to like, do we get the right person? It's just to further dehumanize. And when that's how prosecutors are, I mean, that's how we were trained. It is what it is. They all do it. We've always done it. It's just one of those things.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
actually, he wasn't, yesterday, Gubertosi said he was done with Noonan. And then when Noonan came back, so we thought we were going to start right away with Cross, but Gubertosi said, you know, he had a couple of more questions. And that was one of the questions. I was like, oh no, here we go. So he's reviewed his notes and whatnot. So I guess he reviewed his notes and realized he never had Noonan. And honestly, if anybody should be identifying the defendant, it probably should have been Noonan. And he didn't have that. He probably looked back at the notes and saw that he didn't have her identify. He didn't have him identify her. So he did that this morning.
That's shocking. I mean, I didn't see the very, very beginning, which I guess is when
that was like the first thing that happened. Yeah.
The idea that the one person who, you know, needed to identify the defendant and who should have identified the defendant within the first 30 seconds of his examination after, you know, 5 hours or whatever on the stand, had to come back the next morning. And then I mean, at that point, I almost wouldn't do it. It almost looks, draws attention to, you know, dude, what are you doing?
Yes.
I mean, there's no issue of who she is. Like, they're not going to lose the case because Noonan did not identify her. At that point, I'm letting it go rather than coming back on day 2 and saying, oh, by the way, who's that? I mean,
yes.
Flaw. That's flaw. But I mean,
but that's, he also, in addition, because I started the day by putting, you know, cross-exam of Noonan, which I had to cross out because then it was a direct of Noonan again. It was that issue with the identifying Kelsey, which seemed kind of silly. And then he talked about the chief walking him to his car. And we didn't hear that yesterday. He didn't talk about that and the switching of the guns. So.
Now, see, that is fascinating, not because they switched guns. I'm not getting, again, tinfoil.
Yeah.
But a police officer just shot his ex-colleague, okay, who is potentially dying on her bedroom floor because all you were there to do was hand a piece of paper and do other things associated with that. He testified that within a few minutes after the incident that I was in shock. I don't think he meant shock in a medical diagnosis way, but he was like traumatized. Okay, let's be honest. What happens to any police officer after a shooting? They get sidelined, not because they're concluded to have done something bad, but because they have just done something extremely traumatic. You're on edge. It's crazy. We don't know if you did something right or wrong. Not that we assume you did. What you don't do is take a police officer who just may have, you know, murdered or killed at least his colleague in her own home in a state of shock and say, come here, guy, I need that gun because it's evidence, but here, take my Glock. You're good. Now go back in and, you know, police more. The last thing you do is hand him a firearm.
Yeah. There's an elderly woman inside who's making a scene. Go.
He's Godspeed. Call. He's not responding to a new job after that. You're done for the day, sir.
Yes. Yes.
You've done enough.
Such a great point.
Yeah. Like,
you've done enough.
Yeah.
And it turned out he even testified I was in shock.
Right.
So the real question is, why the hell are you handing him a loaded firearm?
And he didn't get interviewed. Do you find it odd, Mark, that he didn't get interviewed for 3 days later after this shooting?
Yeah, and you know, I would have liked to have seen more on this in terms of during those. I mean, that's something I would draw out actually for 20 minutes. So this was on like June 30th, right?
Right.
You know, on June 30th, were you interviewed? No. Who did you talk to about this incident? Everyone. Other than, you know, a lawyer is privileged, whatever. Did you and Daly talk about it? Did you tell him what happened? Did he ask you? Did you discuss, what are you going to say? Did you discuss the possibility of internal? I would go on and say, but so you talked to nobody. Okay. On, if that was June 30th, then on July 1st, were you interviewed? No. Did you talk to Daly? Did you call him? Dude, who did you talk to? You just kept this all on yourself. You told nobody. You didn't get your story straight on July 2nd and and make the point that he had all this time to put a story together with and let's be honest, cops do that. It doesn't mean they're even doing anything wrong. They're like, what the hell did you see? And oh my God, what happened? And Noonan struck me as the kind of guy who would have said, I didn't talk to anybody. Nope.
Yeah, I only found it suspicious that he specifically said he didn't. He said nobody bothered you about it. Nobody talked to you about it until June 3rd, right? Or
July
3rd. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So nobody talked to you in all that time. So I chalked it up as, okay, well, I find that weird, but I don't find it weird that he didn't get formally interviewed until then. Because maybe right now I didn't think of it the way you just explained it makes perfect sense, and it totally changed my mind. But
again, it's okay to sometimes to disagree, and that's what lawyers do. I thought he let him off the hook a little bit with the gap, and not just the ultimate conclusion, which was established. Nobody interviewed you, but I would have liked to have filled in the blanks of who you did talk to. What did you say? Did you express any concern that IAB is coming for me? Did you and just all of that and make it clear? And there's no good answer for someone like Noonan. It doesn't mean he did anything wrong, but the answers are, yeah, we all talked about it, and but that didn't influence me, or no. And then you're saying, well, I don't believe that because there are no more chatty Cathys in the world other than a bunch of cops. And I love cops.
Yeah.
I have friends that are cops. I defend cops. Let's be honest. The precinct is like a freaking coffee clutch. Okay.
and I mean, how many times have we seen like Bruce Willis or Mel Gibson where he shoots somebody on the job and then the captain's like, we need an IA comes up and they're like, we need to get your statement on this and find out if it was a clean shooting. And then he's like, hey, I need a couple days. Okay. That was my partner. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I chalked it up as like, okay, well, I just find it weird that nobody told him, hey, you okay, we're not going to interview you yet, but okay,
take a couple days, come up with your story, get your thoughts together, try to recall what happened. And what shocks me about these guys is that how many times Houston and Noonan.
Let me finish this point just real quick. Sorry, I'm asking him. You've been an officer this long. I forget his rank, whatever it is. You're a member of a union, right? You have a union delegate. Did you talk to your union delegate? You tell them something happened, something was wrong. That's not privilege. That's not a lawyer. That's just your PBA delegate or whatever they call the union of cops in Essex County, Massachusetts, and all of that, and just really, you'd never know where that conversation will lead to. Because it's impossible that he was not talking to people about what happened and what we're all going to say. And I would say, did you talk to them before the grand jury? Did you? You could drag this out for 30 minutes if you want. That's a little long. I mean, I'm being facetious. But,
25, 30.
All right, sorry, guys. I just wanted to finish up.
That's okay. No worries, Mark. Thank you for that. No, my thing is Houston and Noonan specifically. The fact that, Gubitosi's up there like, I got to try to remind them of their testimonies, and they get conflicting testimonies with Bradel obliged and calling out left and right. But it's like, how would you not? I mean, something like that when you're involved with it, it's a day you never forget as a cop. You don't forget, like, there's crazy things that come and go as a cop or when you're in the military or whatever, but you don't forget certain things. And I find it hard to believe these officers, especially Houston today, it was like the guy was lobotomized. It's like, what's the deal? What do you mean you don't remember this? How could you not forget that day and what happened?
No, but also another example. He says, I didn't know that Justin was there. Okay, let's assume in real time that's true. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but assume it is.
Yeah.
Then he says, I thought he would, shoot me and go down, or she would shoot me and go down and try to shoot him. meaning he learned at some point that Justin was there. So my question is, who told you? What conversation? When? Where? Like all these things. We also know, I think we talked about this earlier, he was talking to the neighbor about what a whack job she was. We spent a lot of time on that. When, where, how, what, why? Who else did you share that opinion with, sir? Nobody. Well, you know, because the only one he told is because they happened to find out and told Tim.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
Your neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, he mustn't be a very good neighbor because, you know, obviously Tim got this information from the neighbor. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be running into him while I'm out getting my mail now, you know.
That's tough.
He's like, I got special AI glasses.
That
they call me Santa Cop online.
I thought there would have been, if you had said to me yesterday, which is more likely hearing at the trial today, either an accusation of AI glasses or the left shoe, I would have said the left shoe, actually. I would have said the left shoe. I didn't have AI fake Google glasses as the lead in on cross-examination.
That was wild. That was wild.
That was not on my bingo card at all.
No, do you have a script scrolling through your eye on your glasses right now, Officer Noonan? Is there a script going by?
Most witnesses, in my view, would react to a question like that by tilting their head, looking at the questioner, and just kind of like, no, you know, this guy's answer was no. Like, you know, what's that?
Right.
Yeah. He was like, doo-doo, you know, no.
Right. It was weird. But then he was unsettled. Like, it was almost like, shit, I got caught with my AI glasses on.
The line of the day, though, had to have been because you were going to get wet. And so,
and he had to repeat it.
Not before this audience. That audience is going to take that to the end zone.
Karp goes, because all of us were going, what? And Karp goes, wanted to get what? He knew he was going to get what? And so Bradel had to eat it and repeat it. Like I swear, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says. That's one of those things that came out of Bradel's face and wished he could grab it back and put it back. And it was too late. Karp was like, and he wrote it out, dude. He wrote it out. It worked. It was fine. No harm done, but it was fucking hilarious. I'm sorry. It was hilarious.
It was. I think he meant like blood splatter.
That's exactly what he meant. But he chose the worst possible way
to You're a good friend, Mark.
It was funny. I mean,
it was really over the top.
I couldn't believe people didn't start laughing, like, because I was holding it in. I have to say, especially when he had to repeat it, and the judge was like, "What? What?"
I had the pleasure of seeing that on Ricada's channel, and I thought I was going to get more. I just think it went over Nick's head, but the chat caught it and they were like, what? Right. It was pretty funny. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh my goodness. Lori, can you discuss how difficult it is to revet status in Massachusetts?
To revet, I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Yeah. What does revet mean?
I don't understand that question either. We'll have her post again in the chat here. So we'll come back to that.
For those of you who watched it on live stream, I don't know how, I haven't had a chance to go back and watch it, but Houston's testimony was so off-putting. Like the whole demeanor of him.
It was weird.
It was awful. It was so unprofessional. He was slouching. Like you could, I don't know if you could
mumbling.
Mumbling just like this, like
leaned
over.
Houston, like it seemed like I don't know. It seemed like something wasn't right. It seemed like he was very off.
And I just was like, this can't be his first time testifying, just in anything. Like it was so, I mean, it was just very reluctant. He was just like, he couldn't be bothered to be there. Like, It was really bad, really bad.
It was bad, and it didn't hurt Kelsey at all.
No, it didn't.
Very detached, and he was the one. He seemed from his testimony that was the one that was closest with Kelsey.
Yes.
I don't really understand why. Like it seemed like the prosecution tried to paint this picture with all three of the police officers that she worked with, that none of them were close with her. Well, I worked a different shift and I did this and I did that. And it's like, then when you delve down into it a little more, you've got Noonan sending texts about, like him in therapy. And then you have, this guy, was trying to plan. He went on and on about some engagement party they were trying to plan, but then again, it never ended up happening. And it was like, but then on the other hand, we hardly knew her. We hardly knew her. She worked a different shift and she was on maternity leave. And like, I don't know what the point of it was. I don't know what the point of why they wanted to be so detached from the situation.
And meanwhile, then you have the person who actually shot Kelsey, almost killed her. And in her statement, she says, I considered him a friend.
A friend. Yeah.
What a different, like.
Yeah. And I mean, that was the Houston thing, because she was just like looking right at him, because I think that those two, even more than Noonan, because he's a younger guy, whatever, they were friendly. Like I was invited to the wedding. I went to the engagement party. He didn't know Justin. He kind of more like I met him, at the engagement party. He was obviously there as a guest of Kelsey, and I might have met him on some calls. But it was like, he seemed very awkward. The whole time he was testifying, it definitely seemed awkward. His gaze was down. He was mumbling. The judge had to say, I can't hear you either. Like, nobody could hear him. And he's a police officer. This isn't just a civilian witness. He should be able to.
Isn't he trained to testify in court?
Yes.
It was bad. You really had a hard time understanding what he was saying. And the judge was having, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say anything defamatory or whatever. He just seemed, I'll just say he seemed off,
Yeah. I'm sure the word articulate is somewhere in that training. Yeah. Somewhere.
Lori, sorry, Lori, the transition. I apologize for this. The question was basically military vets that work for the police department. Is it impossible to fire them? So someone such as Noonan that had a level of whatever on his police force, is he almost like untouchable in terms of his police status?
No, I mean, I think I don't see why he would have any, just because he's a vet. And actually, they all seem, one of the other ones had military background too, said they were in the Army. No, I mean, you have to be held to the same standards as a police officer. I mean, it is hard to remove police officers from duty because, the law enforcement, the Leo board and all that stuff, they have union rights and whatnot. But I don't think it makes it any more difficult. I'm not an employment attorney, but I don't think it makes it any more difficult because they were in the Army. I think it's hard to be removed from duty. I think that's a difficult process, but it's certainly done.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll get the final thoughts here and wrap the show. Getting late here.
Can you real quick though? I have a request.
Sure.
Can you hit us one time or a couple of times with the Justin running footage?
Oh, sure.
Can you? I mean, come on.
I would love it.
I know I'm not alone here.
And for everyone that said they loved the show last night, that was their favorite part. So
they love that part.
If I can find it now.
Got to get back to the gym on the leg day thing. I mean, we established that in the first break-in video, and now, it's even more clear.
Yeah.
Here we go. I got it. Here we go. I think this is it. Yep, we got it. Okay, here we go. Let's get this fired up here.
Handy too, just for old time shits and giggles.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Justin just running out the door. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
Is that the title you got for it, Mark? Justin running out the door.
Oh, sorry. Did I put it up yet? Is it up on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, sorry. Everyone's. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. I just felt like running.
Like, dude, those knee braces, those leg braces came off a little too early, Forrest.
I just felt like running.
Run, Forrest, run.
It's fantastic.
Now let's see that in instant replay.
Justin deserves no less than to have this tattooed on the internet. I love it.
He looks like a baby giraffe in slow motion.
It does look like a giraffe. Oh my god, it's so good. Oh, that's the best ever.
Let's see that in instant replay. Number 9 runs it into the end zone for a touchdown. Up, oh!
Oh, and he's just short of home plate.
Oh my gosh, Bustin'
A
Justin.
little rough on the landing. He may have to settle for the bronze.
And wasn't there a video today? I saw it online, and it's actually hard in the courtroom unless you're sitting in the appropriate seats to actually see what's being shown to the witnesses.
Yes.
But wasn't there a video? There's actually video of him going up the basement stairs, and what a scramble that is too. He's like,
I have that too. Yeah,
there.
Yeah, he almost fell over when he knocked the door down too. Like I was like, yo.
Yes, he does. Like
make sure my glasses are okay though.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Mark
I hate
has
that
no
guy.
comment. Mark's just like,
I hate that guy.
I
That guy.
got
you got nothing. There's no legal commentary.
all I asked for was to get their creeping around Kate video. That's all I wanted. That's my
so good.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude, thank God for Ring cameras, bro.
I'm trying to find the Boston 25 video, but I can't find. Yeah, I can't find the Boston
Is that what
25
was
video. I
on
might have
there?
taken it down overnight.
This is all because of Kelsey's.
Well, it was
dad
allegedly
and his cameras.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You see that Boston 25 totally just snake turtle boy of a story and didn't even credit him?
No.
Yeah, I heard
didn't
about
look
that.
at
So
anything.
messed up. Yeah, dude. I was like, what? Because I had just read his started to read his article about it. I didn't finish it, but I just started to read his article about it, and then I saw that. I was like, what? Ah, like
That's
that
gross.
he had a source, and they just like
Yeah.
yeah.
That's that Plymouth story, right? The story over in Plymouth about that officer there that got suspended.
About the police
Something
officer.
going on with their family. Yeah.
I just saw a news story about it, and I was like, okay, so what happened? I remember reading it or watching the video and being like, okay, and reading the article and going, okay, so why is she on leave? What happened?
I think that's because
there
her
was
and the
nothing.
I guess
But
it's her and
Aiden
the
got a
father-
source,
Okay.
and Aiden got a source that explained what happened and shared documentation, and Boston 25 just stole it, according to Aiden.
What happened with the Plymouth cop? What is it?
Yeah.
The wife, I think a wife and a husband got accused of sexual assault by their child, didn't they? For like 5 years or something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe I got it
which is
wrong.
what Aiden uncovered,
Yeah.
supposedly. This is what Aiden exposed. All we knew was that she was on leave, and we didn't know why.
Right.
So, but Aiden found out why and posted it and wrote an article about it, and then Boston 25 just basically didn't even credit him and jumped on the story and didn't even credit him.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's
According to Aiden, by the way. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm just seeing what he's been posting.
Right.
I was talking to people outside the courthouse today about that. I'm like, nobody does any kind of journalism here at all.
You were
Like,
saying that to me, yeah.
oh, that's what. Yeah, you were there. Yeah. Noonan and his wife and a couple of his family members walk out, and you come down the stairs, and it's just media cameras. None of them even tried to talk to him, ask him any questions, like nothing. He just walked right past them, and I'm like, what are you here for? Like, try to get a story, try to get a comment, something.
At least
Like,
got
they
a
just-
comment, right? That's I mean, I made the comment. I was like, if Aiden were out here and he didn't have a restraining order on him, and he didn't have attorney Mark Betterow looking over his shoulder every time he got in front of a camera, he would be putting his microphone there and saying, you know, why did you try to kill Kelsey Fitzsimmons, Officer Noonan? You know,
If this case was in New York, you would get, daily New York Post treatment. It was actually the New York Post yesterday. It's a casual article. But if this was like a New York Post type coverage, they'd have a camera person there every day as well, and they would be snapping pictures of Noonan, and they'd be asking him questions and doing. I mean, that's, in many ways
what you would expect a journalist to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
it's interesting because,
Ask questions. Yeah.
I mean, the Post is different. I mean, it's like classic tabloid type, sensational, true crime is like
Different than Aiden.
My point is, in like Boston, I mean, the Herald is tabloid, but it's not tabloidy per se. It doesn't do what like the New York Post does. I mean, it just gets all up in your business.
True. But they didn't ask anything. They were literally just clicking the pictures and it was Noonan. He was leaving with I assume his spouse or whatever, significant other. And then there was, I think a few other police officers that were there with him. And they just followed him down the sidewalk. Didn't even say, would you like to make a comment? No, they just followed him out.
Someone's claiming the court doc dropped this morning. No one stole anything from anyone. I don't know enough about the story.
I don't know. Like I said, I just saw Aiden's post on it. So
yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know what's available, how it all came to be, but no, I don't know enough information on it. So yeah, that's that. So all right. So I will. I think I'm going to be back live tomorrow night if you guys are free. Mark, I don't know if you're going to be available tomorrow. I think you're traveling, right?
Eating fine steak in Boston tomorrow.
Well, that's good.
So.
That's great.
Well, from from there, but yeah,
right, absolutely, that's fantastic, Mark. Have safe travels. Travel tomorrow, I take it. And travel safe, and maybe we'll see you later this week.
Or in 10 minutes to get an afternoon flight tomorrow. It feels like.
Oh wow, yeah.
Actually, not really. The New York airports received those replenishments of all the ICE agents who were checking IDs and. Carrying bags and doing what the regular TSA people do. So New York City isn't too bad. And obviously LaGuardia is caught back up after the other day's horrible incident there. But yeah, it shouldn't be that bad. It's a short flight, 40 minutes.
That's good to hear. It's like an hour, 30 minutes. So that's not bad.
40
Boston.
New York. By the time you get up, you're coming down.
Right. Right, you're at peak air level for about 2 minutes, and then just right back down again.
Yeah, I always have a connecting flight in LaGuardia, almost always when I go to Boston.
The worst of the three because it's so small and it's too busy for what it is. I mean, they redid a lot of it, but I mean, JFK and Newark are much better than LaGuardia.
LaGuardia, yeah, absolutely. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah,
Thank
safe
you.
travels, Mark, and Lauren and Lori. You guys will be in court tomorrow, I presume, and it's going to be a big day. Again, every day is a big day in this trial, and it's going to be interesting tomorrow with the little break in the day with the judge going to the house and taking a look at that. And when Bradel starts his witnesses.
Budgeted though, I expect to be there Thursday. So
at the trial,
is that when you're thinking that closings will be Thursday morning?
I do think they'll be Thursday.
Okay,
Me
that's
too.
what I was thinking.
Yeah. Me too. Especially if they're able to do. The only thing that was kind of a question mark with this view, because they do have to coordinate it, and they have to coordinate it with the current homeowners and get all of that organized, and court officers and people there. So I felt like they're gonna try to do it for tomorrow. They're definitely gonna try to set that up for tomorrow. Which I think would end up pushing the closings off until Thursday. I think it was kind of mentioned today that the prosecution has only one more witness.
I think I think the field trip's probably going to be Thursday, and then action's probably Thursday as well. I think tomorrow will probably be finish up the rest of the stuff. I think.
Yeah, just to get that coordinated and whatnot. But they weren't really clear on it. They did make it seem like it could potentially happen tomorrow, but I think that's kind of up in the air right now. But I think you're right. I think it will. I think they thought they were going to finish on Wednesday. But I think now because of the view, it's not going to be done until at some point on Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
I'm looking forward to go. I don't know that I've ever in my entire life ever been to Lawrence, Massachusetts, even though I'm from Massachusetts.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
It goes through it, and I guess I've been on it, but I don't think I've ever actually said I'm going to Lawrence.
No, never in my life. I never thought. I mean, no, never.
Just to that, okay.
Imagine that, man.
I'm bringing a protein bar for lunch. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you just never know when MazzaMedia is going to show up in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and I have a feeling it's probably going to happen at some point soon. I'm not telling anybody when or where or why or how, but there's a few people on this panel that know. But we shall see. So yeah, ready to rock as we're ending the show. But Britt wanted to stop in real quick to say hello with her Boston
can everyone
t-shirt
hear
on.
me?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Camera's working tonight. That's good.
Thank goodness. Look, this is a jerry-rigged setup that I have right now. It's a GoPro with a TV screen all hooked up to a laptop with an external gaming keyboard. But
I'm dating myself by saying that, by the way. It's like she did the MacGyver treatment to get her setup going. Some of you know what I'm talking about.
No, everybody knows what you're talking about, pretty much. At least
a little duct tape, and you can build just about anything.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe I do need to replace this camera though, pretty desperately. So yeah, that's why you just saw a little talking bubble last night. But yeah, sorry it was a late day at work, but you know, in the little bit of off time that I got today, I got to see Santa Cop turn into Krampus Cop in real time. So that was something special. You know, his credibility just dried up and turned to dust.
Oh yeah.
It's
gone.
It was something serious. And let's see, a couple other highlights. I did not see the frenemy, Michelle. I haven't seen her testify yet.
That'll be a treat for you to watch later.
Yes.
Yeah. What did y'all think?
I thought she was very nice. I thought she was friendly and outgoing, and I think she was like down for like hanging out with people afterwards. I thought she was
We're
very
getting
friendly.
coffee later.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw a lot of posts.
She's one of the gals.
Oh boy. I wonder, just from the posts I've seen, like, I wonder if maybe she at the time of the incident was thinking to herself, oh, maybe, you know, I'll become conveniently available for Justin now that he and Kelsey aren't going to work out. But who knows?
I just don't know what she was doing there. It's one of the things I just can't figure out.
Yeah,
I really think
she added
bad
that.
portrayal.
It makes no sense. I just don't understand why the Commonwealth would have her there. There was nothing to gain from it. I mean, even if her demeanor was fine, she didn't have anything to offer. There was nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think
Usually-
anybody.
Like usually lawyers like evidence that's what we call relevant. This was the exact opposite of relevant. I don't get it. You know, the attitude is just kind of like the sprinkles on top of the cake. It's just a waste of time, and it doesn't make any sense. It
made no sense. I kept waiting for it. I hate when I'm just so confused because I can't figure out the point. Like,
yeah,
I kept saying,
Right, and if a prosecution,
I'm
is,
like, it's like I wanted to stand up and ask, does anybody else understand what that was all? Why did any of that even? It made no sense.
if the prosecution fails to produce relevant witnesses, well, doesn't that imply overall, especially to a judge in a bench trial, that the case is there's no case, there's no relevant witnesses? Then what are we doing here?
So was she just there to badmouth Kelsey, basically?
Pretty much. I guess the point was to kind of make it seem like Kelsey was in, because it happened the day, you know, she texted Kelsey that day, and to show that Kelsey had a certain demeanor or state of mind that apparently would make her want to murder Noonan. I mean, like that's the leap you would have to go to, because I just don't understand otherwise what the point was. Like, okay, I mean, you guys were all at at this friend's house, Buston's friend's house. And Kelsey was a little upset because, oh, well, I don't know. My fiance and my bridal party are all hanging out over here and I'm not even involved in any of this. So I might be saying, I need Justin. I want to talk to whatever. Other than that, I mean, other than to say that might have been something she was upset about. I don't know a human on earth that wouldn't be upset about that.
Sure.
I don't understand why this would be like breaking news.
I remember from the texts, she was saying things to Justin like, hey, I see on your location that you're at this person's house with these girls. What are you guys doing over there? So, was she suspicious of this Michelle somehow? Was she calling Michelle to say, hey, put my boyfriend on the phone because I want to know, what you guys are all doing over there without me? I mean, that would make me uncomfortable if,
I think that's what it was. And then, she testified that she saw her drive by. So what? I mean, they don't live that far. And it's and she's saying, okay, I see that Justin's over here. And then why? And then when she drives by, she recognizes everybody's cars. And she's like, okay, this is great. My whole wedding party's over here. Like, what's happening? What's going on? I don't think it really, I'm still confused. I have no idea what the point of it was. She didn't add anything. She certainly didn't help the Commonwealth. I mean, if anything, she hurt them. It would hurt more if it was a jury because she would have had the Deaver effect, the Dever effect. It was a jury where they would have been like this bitch, I think that's the effect that she had. Karen Reed was kind of like, they were like, okay, we don't want to be on team Dever, we want to be on team Reed, but so you're not going to get that from the judge. But so because of that, I feel like it's just useless. I think it was useless. I don't understand it.
Yeah, she's definitely the Dever of this trial.
She's got the haircut too to kind of suggest the Dever effect.
You need to clarify that for me.
Watch this.
Oh, you need to clarify that for me.
Okay.
Man.
So just let's put that over here.
Oh yeah. Look at that smile.
Oh man, look at her face,
Justin,
bro.
Right?
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Wow.
She's got guilty face.
Oh,
She's got guilty face.
that is the face.
Look at
That,
that.
Oh, okay. So down here in the South, the wenches of every town church, when they say "bless your heart," that's the face that they have.
Yeah.
Dude, that is RBFS in full effect, bro.
Yeah. That is the face that you see when a Southern woman is saying, I just love that for you, or bless your heart.
Yeah.
Right.
That is the exact face.
She says gracias at a Mexican restaurant, like on purpose.
Right. Mimics an Asian accent to the waitress.
Gracias.
I mean, it was cringe because she really thought she was owning Bradle with that.
Yeah.
She thought she was winning. That's what was so bad about it. It's like, lady, you really just made a complete fool of yourself. But okay, to me it was just when you've been sitting on those benches, and Lauren can attest to this for that long, it was like, why am I sitting and listening to this woman who has nothing to offer?
Complete waste of time.
She insults people on social media and closes with "Have a nice day."
Yeah, exactly.
Smiley
Have a nice day. Bye.
Yeah.
You too. Yeah,
Have a good day.
Yeah.
She reminds me
blessings. Blessings.
Have you guys ever bartended or worked in restaurants in college or after or at any point? And
not in college.
you know how there's always that you know how there's always a couple where one person from the couple, if you go to check on their meal and one person wants extra ranch and you say, okay, I'll be right back with that, the other member of the couple accuses you of flirting with their husband or wife or whatever because you offered to bring them something else.
Every table I've ever served. No, I'm just kidding. It's never happened to me ever. Not
Only
once.
80%. Only
It's
80%.
never happened.
Hallelujah.
I don't think it happens to guys as much as it happens to girls.
Well,
but I managed
that's hard.
waiters. I didn't.
I heard this story where a lady didn't give a tip to a waitress because she called her husband honey or hun too many times while she was the waitress, and that was basically written on the receipt. You know, she's like, don't ever call my husband hun again or something like that.
Well, she may not want to bring her husband anywhere south of the Mason-Dixon line because that's going to happen at every restaurant they go to.
Yeah. Oh boy.
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna
Bye,
go
Lauren.
sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you tomorrow,
I'm gonna wrap
Thanks,
up
everyone.
here.
See you in the morning,
Mark, on Thursday.
Bye, Lauren.
Absolutely,
Bye,
Lauren.
guys.
I will see you guys later. All right, take care. We'll call the show right here. Yeah, I'm kind of getting a little sleepy right now. I'm exhausted from last night too. So,
well, I gotta go watch this girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
go watch it. You'll be left as baffled as me as to why she was even there. For sure.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Well, great
thanks for
seeing
dropping
all
by.
of you guys. Thanks for having me.
Checking out.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Lori Ellen, Mark Bettero, the Galera. Guys, thank you all so much for joining
Take care,
us
guys.
tonight. And I'll send invites for tomorrow if you guys are available. Mark, I know you're traveling, so have a safe trip and have a good time up here. And enjoy that steak.
I will.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't think I'll be working late, so
It's good. I'll send you guys a message shortly. All right,
All right,
everyone, thank you
thank
so
you.
much. I appreciate it. Kelsey Fitzsimmons, ladies and gentlemen, day 3 of trial. And I'll pump you out there. Well, no problem. And then I'm going to play the fervent video one more time to play us out. And then we'll call it a show. We'll play it right here. Here we go.
It's 2 of the Kelsey Fitzsimmons trial. Back on the stand is LTL Sr. Attorney Bradel says, hey, I kind of like those glasses. Are those one of those AI ones where you can record everyone? We are then reminded of Massachusetts law enforcement's favorite derogatory term to call women.
Do you know Maureen Teresi, your neighbor?
Maureen Teresi.
You gave her your opinion of Kelsey, didn't you?
I don't remember.
You called her a whack job, didn't you?
She was a whack job.
Noonan says he fired in rapid succession at Kelsey. So it kind of sounded like this.
Bang, bang. Right?
However, Bradel says Noonan told the police that he pulled the trigger once, gave commands to Kelsey, and then fired again. We then get into the tactical Kama Sutra, featuring positions such as the Weaver, the FBI Crawl, the One-Hander. We talk about how he was standing like 3 feet from Kelsey, yet couldn't hit her despite being a former member of the SWAT team. He then makes the wild accusation that he believed he was standing in the way of Kelsey going downstairs and killing Justin. Speaking of Justin, one more time for old time's sake. Bradel wraps up his cross by getting into the evolving statements of Officer Noonan. Originally, Noonan said that Kelsey was grabbing her chest, saying it hurts, and he was comforting her, saying, you have a kid to live for now. But in this other investigation, he added the fact that she apparently grabbed his hand, looked up at him, and almost looked through him with a death stare. Next up is Core. This guy took possession of the firearm after the incident. He's on the stand for a total of about 10 minutes. Bradel notes that he didn't write a police report, and he wasn't interviewed until a month after the incident, which we know from prior cases is standard Massachusetts protocol. Up next is Bonosero. This guy is bald, so we know he works for the Massachusetts State Police. If we've learned anything from the past few years, it's that the MSP is really bad at keeping a chain of custody. There were several areas where the witness didn't know how a certain piece of evidence got to him or where it went after him. Par for the course. Officer Houston rolls out of bed and onto the witness stand. He says Noonan told him that Kelsey pointed a gun at him at the scene. Bradel objects. During cross, Officer Houston said that Kelsey was saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." It seems everyone in Massachusetts has to say things 3 times in a row.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
It was abundantly clear he did not want to be there. We end the day with Michelle Mitchell, apparently was a friend of Kelsey's. You couldn't tell because she was asked 5 questions by Bradel, and she answered 4 of them with an attitude.
Okay, she said that she needed Justin.
Meeting or needing? You need to clarify that for me.
I think I said needed. She said she needed Justin.
Needed Justin. That is correct.
Okay, so just let's put that over here. That she was meeting Justin, right?
Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
So was there swimming?
No, Mr. Brader.
Was there drinking?
Also no.
The defense will be chaperoning the judge on a field trip to the scene tomorrow morning. It seems the Commonwealth may be resting, and we'll get to the defense case tomorrow. You know our motto here, but like, but comment, but subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow.